Chapter 633. Pooh. Just as Zhang Heng spoke, Wan Baolu suddenly made his move. A dim light shot out and pierced through Zhang Heng's head. Where did this dog come from? To think that he dares to slander my Wan clan. How reckless. Xiao Chen could have stopped this earlier attack. However, he did not do so, as there was no need to do so. After all, everything before him was just a situation. Xiao Chen had never been so naive as to rely on evidence to resolve a problem in someone else's territory. Wan Baolu stood upright with his hands behind his back. After killing Zhang Heng, he looked coldly at Xiao Chen and said, "Let me give you a piece of advice. White-robed bladesman Xiao Chen. There are some muddy waters in this world that you cannot meddle in. The marriage of my Wan clan and Feng clan is not for you to interfere." Just as Feng Tianming was about to say something, Xiao Chen stopped him. He said calmly to Wan Baolu, "Whether it is for me to interfere or not is not up to you. As for the truth, you just have to get the bride to speak, and the truth will be revealed." Everyone reacted. That's right. What exactly is going on? Just get the person involved to speak, and everything will be clear. The red-robed Wan Shan said sternly, "Fei Xue is not feeling well. It is not convenient for her to speak. What does it have to do with you whether she speaks or not?" As Xiao Chen spoke, the killing intent of the 36 martial monarchs focused on him. They wanted to use their killing intent to force Xiao Chen back. Before a strong aura, people would unconsciously lose some of their confidence, messing up their plans. This was what happened to Feng Tianming earlier. Now this group of people had the chance to use the same trick again. Xiao Chen smiled coldly to himself. Unexpectedly, they dare to play with killing intent with me. Interesting. A faint red light flickered in the depths of Xiao Chen's eyes. The peak state of massacre instantly surged out. A vast, ocean-like killing intent surged out like a flood. In that instant, it drowned out the killing intent of the 36 martial monarchs. Then it continued forward without stopping. The strong killing intent stunned the 36 martial monarchs. They could not help but take a step back. Xiao Chen single-handedly forced back the killing intent of 36 martial monarchs. Such a shocking scene caused many people to take a deep breath. Xiao Chen's strength was becoming more and more unfathomable. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said, "I'm feeling unwell. I'm afraid you guys have cast a restriction on me, so I can't open my mouth or circulate my energy. If I can make her open her mouth, I'll immediately turn around and leave. 10,000 Treasure Tower, do you dare?" Xiao Chen's voice was calm and indifferent, neither servile nor overbearing. He looked at Wan Baolu, who was like a king in Wan Clan City, and directly asked. Now that things have come to this, everyone present felt that there was definitely something fishy about this matter. Also, the Wan clan shouldn't be in the wrong. If not for his guilty conscience, he would not have killed Zhang Heng, nor would he have kept the bride in silence. However, this was the headquarters of the Wan clan. There were many experts here. Even if he was in the wrong, it would be very difficult for this Xiao Chen to bring the bride away, almost impossible. Wan Baolu felt frustrated. He shouted angrily, "Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to me like that? This is the territory of my Wan clan. We do not welcome you here. Scram immediately." "You don't dare? In that case, I'll come and ask her personally." Xiao Chen carried the black wooden box on his back, and held the lunar shadow saber in his left hand. He wore white robes and gently pushed off the ground. A resonant dragon roar came from Xiao Chen's body. He stood on a blue dragon image, and quickly flew towards Feng Fei Xue. Wan Baolu was startled. He had not expected Xiao Chen to be so bold, daring to make a move in the Wan clan's territory in front of everyone. "You overestimate yourself. Block him. Don't let him get close to Feng Fei Xue." Wan Baolu shouted angrily as he smacked the table heavily. "Xiao! Xiao! Xiao!" Instantly, the 36 martial monarchs leaped up and unleashed their strong auras. As their quintessence surged, heaven and earth trembled. They all executed their best moves, giving off a resplendent light as they charged at Xiao Chen. Even though there were no superior grade martial monarchs among the 36 martial monarchs, their aura was still very horrifying. Quintessence gathered and tore pitch-black tears in space. Everyone outside sucked in a deep breath. The Wan clan was too ruthless. They immediately mobilized 36 martial monarchs. It seemed like they wanted to suppress Xiao Chen. First martial uncle, please make a move and stop them. Xiao Chen will die, Yu Chenxi said to the Haotian sect elder beside him. That old man muttered. If I make a move, it will be useless. You should not make a move either. No martial monarch would be able to withstand the attacks of 36 martial monarchs. Yu Chenxi said anxiously. Then what should we do? Are we just going to watch Xiao Chen die? He agreed to join my Haotian sect. It's fine. I already sent a message to Old Feng. As long as a martial sage does not make a move, he will not be able to do anything to the Wan clan. The old man said indifferently. As for now, let's just play it by ear. If Xiao Chen dies like this, he will not be worth the Haotian sect nurturing. As the old man spoke, the situation in the air changed. A Taiji Yinyang flame diagram appeared in front of Xiao Chen. Yinyang, the 4 divisions, and the 8 trigrams appeared on the surface. The Taiji Yinyang flame diagram lit up, and all the attacks were reflected at an even faster speed. Pooh. Pooh. Waves of air surged and light overflowed in all directions. Blurry traces were refracted in space, and miserable shrieks resounded in succession. When the light scattered and the shock waves calmed, Xiao Chen, dressed in white and carrying a wooden box on his back, remained unharmed. The 36 martial monarchs who soared into the air were all caught off guard by their own killing moves. All of them were caught off guard by their own killer moves, groaning in pain as they fell down. Such a scene shocked everyone. In merely one breath of time, the 36 martial monarchs with surging auras were beaten into such a sorry state that Haotian sect elder gaped and exclaimed in shock. How can this be? He really blocked the attacks of 36 martial monarchs. Wan Balu said in a flustered and exasperated manner. Bunch of trash. Get up and kill him. Xiao. When the 36 martial monarchs on the ground heard Wan Balu's angry shout, they did not have time to adjust their chaotic auras. They got up and charged at Xiao Chen again. The Taiji Yinyang flame diagram had suffered such a huge attack. Xiao Chen had exhausted too much of his mental energy, and he could not continue using it. Xiao Chen flicked his sleeves, and the 2 clumps of yin and yang flames on the Taiji Yinyang flame diagram turned into 2 beams of light and returned to his eyes. After doing all this, the 3 martial monarchs at the front charged over again. Xiao Chen placed his right hand on his saber hilt and smiled coldly to himself. These people are too arrogant. They are severely injured, yet they do not adjust their energy properly. Instead, they dare to continue attacking. Do they really think that they can take me down in 2 or 3 moves? Clouds move in all directions, wind and lightning gather. As the winds blew and clouds churned, thunder roared. Xiao Chen drew his saber and gathered his dense quintessence on his saber. He executed the starting stance of the lightning tribulation saber technique. Kasie. Kasie. The combined momentum of the 3 martial monarchs was instantly destroyed. The clash of states, auras, and saber intents could not withstand a single strike. They all vomited a mouthful of blood and fell back. The injuries in their bodies had not completely stabilized in the first place. Now that they were even more injured, they could not get up and temporarily lost their combat prowess. Taking advantage of the time the 3 martial monarchs delayed, the remaining 30-odd martial monarchs formed a new encirclement and launched an unending barrage of attacks. Roar! Roar! The dragon roar in Xiao Chen's body resounded endlessly. He stood on a blue dragon image and flashed through the crowd. Using his advantage in speed, he dodged the combined attacks of these people. Bang! 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 The Wan clan's advantage in numbers was nothing before Xiao Chen's speed. The encirclement was full of openings. Light danced around, and surging shock waves swept through the place. Occasionally, Xiao Chen knocked someone back with his saber. It was unknown whether they were dead or alive. The shock waves of a battle between martial monarchs were extremely horrifying. Saber chi, sword chi, and fist winds immediately riddled the peaceful plaza with holes, leaving the place in tatters. The honored guests from all over the great Jin nation had already gathered and watched from afar. They were afraid of getting caught in the crossfire. Most of them were not even martial monarchs. When the other geniuses on the True Dragon ranking saw this scene, they were all stunned. In less than half a year, the white-robed bladesman in the air fought 36 martial monarchs without being at a disadvantage. Instead, the more he fought, the more valiant he became. His aura flourished. As wind and thunder roared, Xiaochen used the lightning tribulation saber technique to beat up these one-clan martial monarchs, who were normally insufferably arrogant, until they could only passively defend. Bai Qi's right hand, which held his saber, could not help but tremble slightly. As a bladesman himself, he could feel more clearly than anyone else how horrifying Xiaochen's current strength was. Fight! 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 Xiaochen felt extremely delighted. Dressed in white, he stood on a blue dragon image and soared up and down. Electricity leaped around the saber and flickered endlessly. The lightning tribulation saber technique was executed to its heart's content. Many figures shot out and landed at Wan Bao's feet, crying out in pain. Wan Bao's complexion turned ashen as he watched all this. How many years had it been since his Wan clan suffered such a huge blow? Furthermore, this happened in the Wan clan's fortress. Earthly lightning chop. The might of wind and thunder finally reached its peak. Xiaochen turned into the heavenly Tao and sent down the first lightning tribulation in the boundless dark clouds. Boom! The malevolent lightning turned into electric light and surged out. 7 or 8 martial monarchs in the air were immediately blasted away. Heavenly lightning tribulation. Another even more horrifying lightning tribulation descended. After the light scattered, there were less than 10 martial monarchs still standing in the air. Divine lightning tribulation. The sky changed color. It seemed like thunder roared in the sky 3 kilometers high. The rage of a deity and the vast heavenly might spread out. Run! The remaining martial monarchs were so frightened that they paled. They completely lost their will to fight. When they faced the final strike of the lightning tribulation saber technique, they fled in all directions. Xiao! The electric light split into 7, looking like 7 flood dragons bearing fangs and claws. They immediately caught up to the 7 fleeing martial monarchs, and 7 loud sounds rang out. The 7 fleeing martial monarchs were even more severely injured. Their clothes were tattered, and their skin was charred black. The saber chi invaded their bodies and damaged their internal organs. It was a tragic sight. When all the light vanished, the world regained its calm. Only Xiaochen remained in the air. The entire plaza fell silent. Xiaochen dealt with 36 peak inferior grade martial monarchs, with just 1 lightning tribulation saber technique. These martial monarchs could not retaliate at all. They were in a passive position, unable to even launch a decent counterattack. If not for the spatial tears in the sky that had not mended yet, this would have been the result of a battle between martial monarchs. No one believed that Xiaochen really defeated 36 inferior grade martial monarchs. Chapter 634. Martial monarchs were monarchs among martial cultivators. Even an inferior grade martial monarch would be considered a peak expert anywhere in the Tianwu continent. However, to Xiaochen had defeated him like he was chopping vegetables. The rumors are indeed true. A king-grade true dragon genius is unrivaled within the same cultivation realm. To them, challenging those of higher cultivation is as easy as eating and drinking. Xiaochen cannot use the standards of ordinary people to judge these people. This insignificant Sky Dome realm will not be able to hide this true dragon. The people below discussed as they looked at Xiaochen. Their gazes filled with astonishment. Favored by luck, king-grade true dragon, all sorts of glory. Regardless of whether one was willing or not, the current Xiaochen had already risen in the Sky Dome realm. He had left the people of the same generation far behind. In this Sky Dome realm, Xiaochen stood out like a crane among chickens. Only the Kunlun realm was Xiaochen's true stage. Only there could he meet geniuses equal to him, even geniuses that surpassed him. Xiaochen slowly landed on the ground. He carried the black wooden box on his back, and continued walking towards Feng Feishue without stopping. Where did this little bastard come from? How dare he cause trouble in the Wan clan's palace? Have you asked for our 8 great guardian deities' permission? A shout came from behind. 8 beams of light quickly flew towards the center of the plaza. A strong aura spread out, kicking up 8 strong tornadoes. Wan Bao's face lit up in joy. He shouted coldly, with the 8 great guardian deities working together. You can even defeat a peak martial monarch. Let's see what other capabilities you have. The 8 great guardian deities are here. Startled cries came from the crowd in the plaza. The 8 great guardian deities were famous. Each of them was a superior grade martial monarch. Although they were not peak martial monarchs, the 8 of them knew a set of joint attacks. With their combined strength, they could severely injure a peak martial monarch. In the past few years, they had been guarding the Wan clan's palace. Their name struck fear in the hearts of all the thieves and bandits, preventing them from being impudent in the Wan clan. The vast wealth that the Wan clan had accumulated was not something that anyone dared to touch unless a martial sage appeared. This was all thanks to the 8 great guardian deities. Xiao. The 8 beams of light were as fast as lightning. They spread out and formed a simple encirclement around Xiao Chun. Their ferocious auras merged together and pressed down on Xiao Chun. Tuoba Yun, help me teach this brat a lesson. Let him know the consequences of causing trouble in the Wan clan. Wan Balu said rudely with a sullen expression. Tuoba Yun revealed a ferocious smile. He said in a deep voice, I will listen to clan head's orders. In that case, I will give this little bastard an unforgettable lesson today. 8 great guardian deities attack. Chi. The 8 flipped their palms at the same time, and an incredibly sharp weapon appeared in each of their hands. Then they charged at Xiao Chun at lightning speed. Xiao Chun Emperor's S's Dao. Spirit Chen's SS, Emperor's Spirit. Xiao Chun's expression remained calm. He did not dare to be careless. He grasped the lunar shadow saber tightly, and saber lights danced around, blocking the 4 attacks in front of him. The 8 martial emperors worked very well together. Just as Xiao Chun blocked the attacks of the 3 in front, a sword light flew at him from his left and right. The sword light was bone-chilling, heading for a fatal acupoint on the side of Xiao Chun's head. At the same time, a thunderous roar came from behind him. Without needing to turn his head, Xiao Chun could see it with his spiritual sense. It was a martial monarch using a thick saber. As he hacked down, purple electricity leaped around his saber. The state he comprehended was the same as Xiao Chen's, a peak lightning-attributed state. Xiao Chen's path of retreat was sealed, and the 3 martial monarchs in front had regrouped and were waiting for him to charge over. There was also the elusive Tuoba Yun, who was hiding somewhere. He watched Xiao Chen coldly like a venomous snake. When the 8 great guardian deities attacked, they forced Xiao Chen into a dead end. If he was not careful, he would fall immediately. The other cultivators in the plaza all felt their hearts leap to their throats. There had long been rumors that the 8 great guardian deities could defeat a peak martial monarch, a half-sage powerhouse, when they worked together. In the past, some people did not believe it. However, now that they saw the 8 of them attacking, no one dared to doubt it. These 8 people worked together perfectly. Furthermore, they were all pretty strong. Their cultivation techniques, martial techniques, and combat experience were not lacking. Roaming Dragon's 9 transformations. Xiao Chen shouted, and his figure split into 9. 3 of them flew forward, and 2 of them attacked from the left and right, holding the lunar shadow saber. One of the figures turned around and clashed with the storm-like saber strike behind him. The remaining 4 figures soared into the air, standing on azure dragons. Dragon roars resounded. The 4 clones made it hard to tell which one was the real one. In the time it took for a spark to fly, 9 figures suddenly appeared and attacked from all directions. In an instant, that terrifying crisis was resolved. Insignificant tricks, and you dare to embarrass yourself? A cold shout resounded in the air. Tuoba Yun, who had been waiting patiently, suddenly made his move. It was unknown where he came from, but he held a short sword with a flowing light in his hand. He stabbed at Xiao Chen's true body. Unexpectedly, he found Xiao Chen's true body in an instant. Boom, boom, boom. The other 8 great guardian deities also used their various means to destroy the 5 afterimages below them in the blink of an eye. The 7 stout men trusted Tuoba Yun very much. When they saw him attack one of the clones, the weapons in their hands gleamed with sharp lights. They soared into the air and did not hesitate to charge over decisively. Blue Dragon Tail Whip. When Xiao Chen saw the situation, he did not panic at all. He merged the 4 clones together and turned into an ancient blue dragon. As the dragon tail swayed, It kicked up a strong wind. Xiao Chen's body arced through the air at lightning speed. He was so fast that a spatial tear appeared in space, allowing him to dodge Tuoba Yun's attack. Xiao Chen arrived before the last person of the 8 great guardian deities. He instantly unleashed the peak state of massacre hidden in his eyes, and merged it with the immortal state of thunder. Purple and red lights flickered strangely on the saber's edge. The sudden appearance of the state of massacre caused the last stout man's heart to tremble for some reason. This person had experienced hundreds of battles, and was also a ruthless person. The number of people he had killed was no less than Xiao Chen's. After being distracted for a moment, he recovered his wits. However, in a fight between experts, a single mistake in one breath could instantly determine the victor. Four-season saber technique, spring saber, thunder shaking the world. Xiao Chen used his quintessence to drive the four-season saber technique. Using the power of the cycle of seasons, heaven and earth trembled as Xiao Chen hacked down with his saber. The aura on the saber was boundlessly majestic. The four seasons cycled, and spring thunder boomed. Everything in the world came to life. All sorts of birds, beasts, and bugs chirped continuously. Eighth brother, be careful. Tuoba Yun cried out when he saw this scene. He had not expected Xiao Chen to be so crafty. With one glance, Xiao Chen saw the weakest person among them. When he found an opportunity, he decisively executed a killing move. The face of the eighth stout man sank. At this critical moment, he did not panic. He sheathed his weapon at his waist and pushed his hands toward the sky. A dazzling golden lotus platform formed above his head. He infused his quintessence into it, trying to block Xiao Chen's saber strike. Clang! When the saber struck the golden lotus platform, it gave off an intense metallic clang. Boundless shock waves surged out, forming ripples that layered over each other, turning everything blurry. The saber's hum suddenly rang out. Xiao Chen infused his 60% comprehended saber intent into the saber, instantly increasing the might of this saber strike by 30%. Kasi. Cracks appeared on the golden lotus platform. It looked like it would shatter at any moment. Tuoba Yun said sullenly, 8 great guardian deities, execute your combined attack. Shield. Xiao. Figures flashed, and the remaining 7 lined up behind the 8th stout man. They sheathed their weapons at their waists and pressed their palms together in that instant. Rings of 5-colored light spread out from the 8 people. The 8 great guardian deities used a mysterious method to perfectly link everyone's aura together. Bang! The lotus platform shattered, and the four-season saber technique's spring saber descended on the 8th stout man. When the surging energy struck the rings of light, it immediately scattered. At this moment, the energy contained in the spring thunder chop was evenly distributed among the 8 people. Its might immediately decreased significantly. Blood leaked out of the corner of the 8th stout man's lips. However, he did not show much pain on his face. Instead, he revealed an extremely ferocious expression. Retreat. Originally, Xiao Chen had intended to use lightning quick means to severely injure the weakest person first. Who knew, the other party's combined attack could be used defensively, splitting the might of the spring thunder chop. Xiao Chen's surprise attack failed, and he lost the initiative. The blue dragon under him roared ferociously, and Xiao Chen quickly flew backward. As the blue dragon moved, he retreated 500 meters in the blink of an eye. You think you can retreat? The 8 overlapping figures quickly switched positions, rearranging their positions according to their strength. Tuoba Yun appeared at the very front, and the other 7 lined up behind him. Tuoba Yun shouted, and a tiny flame spear appeared in front of him, flickering with a faint light. Pa. The 8 great guardian deities placed their right palms on the back of the person in front, sending out their quintessence. Tuoba Yun, who was at the very front, received the power of 7 people. His aura soared, and the flame spear crackled as it burned. The fierce flames lit up the surroundings, and the temperature of the entire place soared. Combined attack, blazing flame spear. Attack. The flame spear pierced through space with a xiao sound. In an instant, it appeared before Xiao Chen, sending out surging heat waves. A vast expanse of pitch-black emptiness formed in the air. It was as if the void itself was being burned away. When the people below saw this scene, they were frightened pale. If it were an ordinary person before this flame, they would have melted under the high temperature. They would not be able to resist it at all. Xiao Chen's face sank. The energy that the flame spear carried made his heart palpitate. The combined attack of these 8 people seemed to be quite extraordinary. Xiao, Xiao, Xiao. In the time it took for a spark to fly, Xiao Chen took 7 steps back in the air. With each step, he left behind an afterimage. Soon he left behind 7 identical afterimages, maintaining the same posture as when he drew his saber. This was the Thunder Shadow Chop, the martial technique that Xiao Chen comprehended himself. He did not dare to underestimate this flame spear. He circulated all 99 drops of quintessence in his dantian. Bang! The 7 afterimages merged in that instant, separating and merging. This happened in less than a breath of time. The people below could not react in time. Chapter 635. Xiao Chen's saber chopped down on the blazing spear. There was a loud bang, and a surging heat wave spread out. A huge force exploded out, and Xiao Chen moved back 100 meters. Blood leaked out of a corner of his lips. A strange look flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. The peak attacks of the 7 afterimages overlapped. Unexpectedly, the force that erupted out was slightly weaker. Tuoba Yun laughed loudly and said, "Ignorant. You dare to clash head-on with our 8-division Heaven Dragon combination technique? White-robed bladesman, today is the day you die." Tuoba Yun laughed loudly and waved his right hand. The horrifying blazing spear's might did not diminish as it continued flying at Xiao Chen. 4-season saber technique, Great Summer, burning to desolation. The blazing spear pierced through space, moving even faster than lightning. With no way to retreat, Xiao Chen decisively made his move, executing the most tyrannical move of the 4-season saber technique. The blazing sun hung high in the sky on a hot summer day. When Xiao Chen swung his saber, it was like the sun was descending from the 9 heavens, wanting to burn everything to desolation. Bang! Before everyone's astonished gazes, Xiao Chen did not choose to just defend. Instead, he continued to use force to break through. An even louder sound came from the sky as boundless flames spread out like fairies, turning into tiny arrows that shot out in all directions. Countless black dots appeared in the paper-like sky from the clash between burning to desolation and the blazing spear. Every black dot was a tiny spatial tear. However, due to the vastness of the sky, they looked as insignificant as black dots. When the fire wave scattered, blood leaked out of a corner of Xiao Chen's lips again. However, there were no wounds on his body at all. Xiao Chen's limbs and bones were intact. As he stood in the air, his aura did not diminish. Doubt appeared in Tuoba Yun's eyes. He muttered, "That should not be the case. I know how strong his physical body is. However, the shock wave of this blazing spear should be able to tear a peak martial monarch into pieces." "Big brother, that brat seems to have a high-ranked defensive artifact on him," a person behind him said quickly. Tuoba Yun looked carefully and discovered a faint blue light slowly fading from Xiao Chen's clear-wind robes. Greed flashed in his eyes as he smiled maniacally. "It is indeed a superior-grade defensive secret treasure. This is a good item. Even the Wan clan only has a few superior-grade secret treasures. Brothers, disperse first. Later, we'll launch a few more joint attacks and kill him directly through the artifact. This high-rank inner vest will be ours." "Who?" The 8 figures quickly separated and turned into 8 beams of light. With a wave of their hands, the weapons at their waists appeared in their hands once more. Then they charged at Xiao Chen. Clang, clang, clang. A thrilling and intense battle once again unfolded in midair. The 8 of them cooperated with tacit understanding, suppressing Xiao Chen on the battlefield. The barrage of attacks continued without end. Xiao Chen's expression was calm, and his mind was not in a mess. He did not intend to use his full strength. The 8 great guardian deities were not Xiao Chen's true enemies. Wan Feng, who was watching him from below, was the true opponent. Although the killing intent in Wan Feng's eyes was very well hidden, it did not escape Xiao Chen's notice. There is no such thing as perfect cooperation in the world. There will definitely be openings. After making up his mind, Xiao Chen hid some of his trump cards. Under the barrage of attacks, He brandished his saber lights and dealt with them calmly. Xiao. The elusive Tuoba Yin suddenly appeared. Taking advantage of the moment Xiao Chun retreated, he thrust his short sword towards his heart. Xiao Chun had expected this long ago. He lowered his saber, and his saber intent, combined with the state of massacre and state of thunder, chopped down. Boom. Tuoba Yin was knocked back. In this one-on-one clash, he was knocked back by Xiao Chun's saber. Xiao Chun easily repelled Tuoba Yun's several sneak attacks. Shock flashed in Tuoba Yun's eyes as he said, "Form the formation. 8 Division Heaven Dragon combined technique." Xiao. The 7 gave up on attacking and returned to Tuoba Yun's back. Then they sent out rings of 5-colored light and merged their auras. Combined technique. Blazing spear. Kill. Bang. Bang. Xiao Chun first used the Thunder Shadow Chop to dissipate half of the spear's energy. Then he executed Burning to Desolation, shattering the spear. The shock wave pierced through Xiao Chun's protective quintessence, penetrated his superior grade inner vest, and struck his internal organs. Blood leaked out of a corner of Xiao Chun's mouth again. He blocked it again. Xiao Chun blocked the combined technique that can severely injure a peak martial monarch to the point of death again. The tens of thousands of guests in the plaza were all shocked. The 8 great guardian deities had used this combined technique to kill many peak martial monarchs. However, Xiao Chun blocked it twice today. Not only did he not get torn to shreds, but he did not even show any signs of severe injuries. Wan Baolu was somewhat shocked as well. However, he did not panic. He smiled faintly and said, "The 8 great guardian deities have never failed before. This time, they will not. What white-robed bladesman? To think that he dares to behave atrociously in my Wan clan." Tuoba Yun's expression turned sullen. Clearly, he had not expected Xiao Chun to be so difficult to deal with. He said angrily, "Scatter. Let's do it a few more times. I don't believe that this brat can continue." Seeing the 8 scatter again, Xiao Chun's eyes lit up as he entered deep thought. The body was a vessel, and the quintessence was the liquid in the vessel. When the vessel suddenly had to endure several times the usual amount of liquid, it would definitely be under immense pressure. After enduring such immense pressure, the physical body would definitely suffer some damage and need to recuperate. Tuoba Yin was such a vessel. Suddenly enduring 8 times the usual amount of quintessence, his physical body would definitely be injured. Otherwise, Tuoba Yin would not have immediately stopped after executing the combined technique. It would have been better to continue attacking. Xiao Chun thought back to earlier. When the 8 surrounded him, Tuoba Yin always hit at the back and attacked. He was probably making use of this time to recover his physical body. Xiao Chun suddenly understood. He smiled and said, "So that's how it is. In that case, you will not have a third chance." Right now, Tuoba Yin was at his weakest. This was the best time to make a move. Earlier, Xiao Chun thought that Tuoba Yin was the strongest. Hence, he looked for the others to break through and destroy them one by one. This was fundamentally the wrong direction. Understanding this, Xiao Chun pushed off the air and charged at Tuoba Yin, who was hiding at the back. Seeing Xiao Chun dodge the others' attacks and charge at him, fear flashed in Tuoba Yun's eyes. He said, "Stop him. Later, we will burn our quintessence and execute the combined technique. He will definitely die." Clearly, the other 7 knew Tuoba Yun's current state. They all stepped forward, releasing lights of various colors as they executed their best moves. Xiao Chun dodged all the attacks. If he could not dodge, he used his superior grade inner vest to block them. What's wrong with this fellow? Such a scene confused the onlookers. Xiao Chun did not chase after the weaker people. Instead, he fought with the strongest. This did not make sense. Standing on a blue dragon, Xiao Chun blocked the 3 attacks. Then he took 7 steps forward and finally encased Tuoba Yin in his saber technique. He said coldly, "Where can you run to?" The wind rustled, the rain fell, and the autumn waters rippled. A beautiful woman smiled faintly. "I'll give you a gentle saber strike. Do you dare to receive it?" Xiao Chun executed the autumn saber of the 4-season saber technique. A gentle saber light, like a pretty woman smiling faintly, appeared magnificent. Tuoba Yin was forced into a corner. He roared ferociously and burned his quintessence. He sent out a light barrier with his short sword, trying to receive this saber strike. Bang! The gentle saber light contained a boundless force. The light barrier in front of Tuoba Yun shattered, and he went flying back, vomiting a large mouthful of blood. Before Tuoba Yun could recover from the aftereffects of executing a joint martial technique, he was severely injured. His complexion immediately paled, and he temporarily lost his combat prowess. "Big brother," the other 7 exclaimed. They all burned their quintessence and charged at Xiaochun in rage. Bang! Xiaochun stomped heavily on the blue dragon image below, and the entire place trembled. When he saw the 7 charging at him, he smiled coldly and said, "Without a joint martial technique, what 8 great guardian deities are they?" With one of the 8 great guardian deities removed, a hole immediately appeared in their originally perfect encirclement and tacit cooperation. No matter what they did, it would be useless. Even if the other party burned their quintessence, it would be wishful thinking for them to defeat Xiaochun quickly. The difference between Xiaochun and them had never been in quintessence. Xiaochun stomped heavily on the blue dragon image and infused his quintessence into his entire body. The purple thunder true fire in his right eye slowly circulated. Bang! A ring of purple flame soared up from Xiaochun's body. At this moment, Xiaochun's surging quintessence burned as well. Furthermore, he burned it with the extreme yang purple thunder true fire. Xiao! In just an instant, Xiaochun felt that he had exhausted 1% of his quintessence. The benefit was that the hidden energy in his body was more than 4 times stronger than before. Xiaochun's aura soared, becoming exceptionally horrifying. The many cultivators below only took one look and felt a deep fear. They could not help but take a few steps back. Before Xiaochun, the ferocious aura of the remaining 7 of the 8 great guardian deities vanished without a trace. In comparison, even though the remaining 7 of the 8 great guardian deities burned their quintessence, they were like children before Xiaochun, who burned his quintessence. The difference in foundation multiplied by the same amount. The person with the higher foundation would instantly widen the gap. Clearly, Xiaochun belonged to the category of people with the higher foundation. Burning his quintessence exhausted a lot of energy. Xiaochun no longer had any reason to continue wasting time. He shouted ferociously and took the initiative to charge over. Xiaochun took 7 steps in the air, each step leaving behind an afterimage. Each afterimage sent out a saber strike, and each saber strike contained a different state. If they did not have the same appearance, others would not be able to tell that these were the clones formed by Xiaochun's afterimages. It was hard to imagine that a clone could reach such a level. Even its expression was different. When Gong Yangyu, who was below, saw this scene, the usually calm Gong Yangyu could not help but stand up excitedly. He pointed at Xiaochun in the air and muttered, "It really is my everlasting universe. How can it surpass me by so much?" Earlier, when Xiaochun used the Thunder Shadow Chop twice, Gong Yangyu only felt that it looked familiar. However, he could not be sure. Now that Xiaochun executed the Thunder Shadow Chop after burning his quintessence, he was finally sure. When Gong Yangyu looked at Xiaochun, he felt that Xiaochun was very scary. What kind of talent does one have to have such a strong learning ability? Bang, bang, bang. 7 muffled groans resounded. The saber strikes from the afterimages knocked the remaining 7 of the 8 great guardian deities back. Their expressions were extremely unsightly. Merge. The 7 afterimages merged. Xiaochun's saber strike contained a 7-fold attack power. When it swept out, the person in front of him blocked for a moment before his weapon shattered. Chapter 636. He turned into a beam of light and moved a kilometer. Then he landed on a tall building in the Wan clan's palace. There was a startling explosion, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. The remaining 6 were startled. As they looked at Xiaochun, who was like a killing god, they could not help but reveal expressions of horror. Xiaochun smiled gently and pushed off the air. Then, he charged at the remaining 6 at lightning speed. When he attacked, saber lights flew everywhere, showing no mercy. When Wan Baolu saw the 8 great guardian deities on the verge of defeat, his previously calm expression finally showed some panic. The 8 great guardian deities had been famous for decades. They had helped the Wan clan defeat many enemies. Unexpectedly, they were about to be defeated by a brat today. Wan Shan quickly ordered people to bring Feng Feishue to the back. Then he said to Wan Balu in shock, "Father, what should we do? We have to ask the old ancestor to come out. This Xiao Chen is too strong." Wan Balu's expression turned grave. He said sullenly, "He is now the bearer of luck. The martial sages of the Sky Dome realm cannot make a move against him. Sima Hong is an example. There will be dire consequences. Pass down my orders. Gather all the martial king and martial saint experts in the city. Even an elephant can die if there are enough ants. Today, I will wear him down." As Wan Feng watched Wan Shan leave in a hurry, rage flashed in his eyes. He gently knocked on the table twice and said calmly, "Uncle, are you looking down on my strength? You still want to call a large group of trash over?" Wan Balu had not expected Wan Feng to really make a move. He rejoiced in his heart and quickly said, "That's not it. How could I know that with honorable nephew's status, you would really make a move to deal with a king-grade true dragon genius?" Wan Feng shouted coldly, "A king-grade true dragon genius? Haha. If he loses to me, then he is not. No matter who it is, they will not be able to stop the Wan clan from swallowing up the Feng clan and cutting off my source of income. How can I just sit back and watch?" While Wan Balu spoke, Xiao Chun, who had already burned his quintessence, took advantage of the situation to defeat the remaining 8 great guardian deities. Then he sheathed his saber and quickly extinguished his burning quintessence. In merely 10 breaths, half of Xiao Chun's 99 drops of quintessence were gone. The rate of consumption was horrifying. "Xiao." Wan Feng smiled sinisterly. While Xiao Chun extinguished the quintessence flames, he suddenly stood up and attacked at lightning speed. With a cold whistle, a long line of ice floated in the air and arrived in front of Xiao Chun at an incredible speed. With a wave of his palm, a wave of yin qi spread out from the center of his palm, causing people to feel a chill in their hearts. It was a chill that penetrated deep into their hearts. Taking advantage of the moment when Xiao Chun finished his battle and retreated to launch a sneak attack, such actions were extremely despicable. Many of the guests could not help but speak in disdain. Even if Xiao Chun had some expectations in his heart, he didn't expect this person to be so despicable. The dignified seal envoy of Bushan Palace shamelessly launched a sneak attack without declaring war. In the time it took for a spark to fly, Xiao Chun did not have time to draw his saber. He clenched his right fist and merged his vital qi and veritable essence energy, circulating the dragon claw fist's berserk dragon stance. Bang! The fist and palm collided and gave off a loud sound. Surging shockwaves spread out in layers. Countless snowflakes could be seen drifting out from the shockwaves. A white figure flew back from the shockwaves. It was Xiao Chun. Caught off guard, he suffered a huge disadvantage in the clash of strength. However, the unmoving Wan Feng was not unscathed. There were 3 faint claw marks on the right side of his face, the work of Xiao Chun. Before Xiao Chun retreated, he suddenly changed his move, turning his fist into a claw and catching his opponent off guard. Clearly, Wan Feng had not expected Xiao Chun to have an opportunity to counterattack in such a situation. Pussy eye. After landing, Xiao Chun did not forcefully suppress his injuries. He immediately vomited a mouthful of blood and felt much more comfortable. He had a superior grade inner vest. Although this palm strike was uncomfortable, it was not as severe as it looked. Only his right arm was covered in frost. Xiao Chun's arm turned stiff, unable to move for some time. His opponent's quintessence was extremely strange. As the welcoming envoy, "You actually sneak attacked me? You are too much." When Yu Chenxi saw that Xiao Chun was injured, she ignored the old man beside her and flew up, sending a punch at Wan Feng. Yu Chenxi had never been a good-tempered person. She had long since felt uncomfortable with Wan Feng's gaze. Now that she saw him sneak attacking again, she did not hesitate to make a move. A rising sun flickered behind Yu Chenxi, and the light on her fist burst forth, turning into a boundless fist wind as she attacked Wan Feng. Wan Feng's lips curled up as he smiled disapprovingly. What does this last know? All is fair in war. The victor does not need to care about what others think. Scram. Wan Feng's figure flickered, and before anyone could see him move, the boundless light froze, turning into ice shards that fell from the sky. It looked extremely strange. Unexpectedly, the light froze. This was the first time Yu Chenxi had seen such a situation, so she was stunned. Only when Wan Feng rushed over did she react. You are making a fuss over nothing. We are in the middle of a battle. Yet you are letting your imagination run wild. Go back, lowly ant. Wan Feng smacked Yu Chenxi's fist with his palm. He laughed loudly, and a cold energy erupted. Yu Chenxi vomited a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground, sliding far away. The old man from the Haotian sect was enraged. He stood up and said, Wan Feng, you are too heavy-handed. Wan Feng looked at the old man, and an unhappy expression flashed in his eyes. He smiled coldly and said, You are asking for it. What does it have to do with me? Also, don't act like a senior in front of me. If you were an elder of the Haotian sect, I would give you some face. Unfortunately, you are not. Don't go overboard. The old man shouted angrily as he pointed at Wan Feng. Wan Feng's expression changed. He charged over and demanded in a cold voice, You still dare to put on airs? Bang! 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 Wan Feng sent out 3 palm strikes at lightning speed, sending the old man flying. The old man vomited 3 mouthfuls of blood and fell to the ground, unable to get up again. A ferocious aura spread out. Wan Feng appeared incredibly tyrannical. With just one glance, he could make anyone tremble in fear. You overestimate yourself. Wan Feng smiled coldly as he looked around. He did not care about these lower realm people at all. Then it shot toward Xiao Chun, whose arm was still numb, like an arrow. Feng Tianming reacted and said, We can't stop him. Don't let him take advantage of the situation to defeat Xiao Chun. Whoosh! Feng Tianming and the other 4 personal guards instantly ignited their quintessence. They did not hold back at all as they charged at Wan Feng. They did not hope to defeat him. They only hoped to buy some time for Xiao Chun to recover, and buy some time. Wan Feng laughed loudly. He did not slow down at all. Motes of white light appeared on his palm, making it look smooth and transparent. There was no bright light or horrifying quintessence fluctuation. When Wan Feng threw a palm strike, the quintessence fluctuation of the guard in front of him froze. As Wan Feng advanced, the ice shattered, turning into ice shards. The scene of what happened to Yu Chenxi earlier replayed. Bang! This guard vomited a mouthful of blood. Before he could disperse the cold qi in his body, he turned into an ice sculpture and fell to the ground. Kasi! Kasie! The ice sculpture shattered, and the guard's body, which was originally made of flesh and blood, shattered into pieces. It was a tragic sight to behold. A bona fide peak inferior grade martial monarch was reduced to nothing in one move by Wan Feng. The surrounding guests were all heroes of their regions, the powerhouses of their sects, young talents, and the top rankers of the true dragon ranking. When they saw this horrifying scene, they all paled. Their hearts trembled in fear. Bang! 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 Wan Feng's figure flashed as he sent out 3 palm strikes. Snowflakes drifted down, and another 3 ice sculptures fell, shattering into pieces. His methods were extremely cruel. When Feng Tianming saw the 3 people who had followed him for decades die just like that, his eyes turned bloodshot. He burned all the essence in his body. A fiery red lotus flower bloomed under Feng Tianming's feet, and his aura soared to peak martial monarch. Then he sent out a palm strike, carrying a heat wave. Wan Feng revealed disdain on his face. He smiled coldly and said, If your quintessence is not dense enough, it is useless no matter how many you have. Scram! Compared to Feng Tianming, Wan Feng's aura was very reserved. Only his right palm gave off a cold light. He did not leak any essence anywhere else. Bang! Wan Feng clashed head-on with Feng Tianming's full-powered strike, but he only took 3 steps back in the air. Feng Tianming flew back like a meteor and fell to the ground, severely injured, unable to get up again. Wan Feng waved his sleeves and laughed softly. You are really powerful. You did not die from my palm strike. However, in the end, an ant will just be an ant. A lower realm martial monarch is not even worth a fart to me. Originally, Wan Baolu had been watching Wan Feng display his might and defeat the group of people. When Wan Baolu, who was already beaming with joy, heard this sentence, his face involuntarily twitched. Wan Feng said that lower realm martial monarchs were not worth shit. Since Wan Feng himself was a martial monarch, did that not mean he was scolding Wan Feng as well? The geniuses in the top 10 of the True Dragon ranking all showed unconvinced expressions, glaring at Wan Feng. Wan Feng's words were too hurtful. Seeing their expressions, Wan Feng laughed loudly and said, "Are you not convinced? When you go to the Kunlun realm, you will know what you are. You will know why I look down on you. Don't think that I am boasting. Your so-called True Dragon ranking is just a joke in my eyes. If 2 or 3 of you can rise up in this great era, then you will be lucky. Damn it, I have a taste of your skills." Bai Qi was slightly angered in his heart. He was also a prideful person. Being looked down upon by Wan Feng, coupled with the fact that Wan Feng was young and impetuous, he was naturally furious. 4-season saber technique, cycle of seasons. Xiao Chun soared up, and a saber light flickered as he executed the strongest move of the 4-season saber technique. I, Gong Yangyu, would also like to experience the might of the guide envoy. I, Lu Xiaoyan, would like to give it a try as well. I, Nangong Ziyue, would like to experience your skills as well. Xiao, Xiao, Xiao. 7 figures soared into the air. The top few of the True Dragon ranking all flew up at the same time, charging at Wan Feng. Wan Feng revealed disdain on his face. He smiled coldly and said, "No matter how many ants there are, it is useless. Before going to the Kunlun realm, I will first suppress your pride, which is not even worth shit." Suddenly, Wan Feng released his aura, which he had been holding back. A strong icy aura spread out. That icy chi was bone-chilling, heartless and heartless. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The surrounding energy, sword wind, and fist lights turned into ice shards under the assault of this cold chi. They fell and blasted deep pits in the ground. Chapter 637. Gong Yangyu's group of 7 had unsightly expressions. They had not expected such a situation. Their quintessence could not get close to Wan Feng at all. They could not even execute their moves. After you go to the Kunlun realm, remember to tuck your tail between your legs. Not everyone is as benevolent as me. Scram now, you ants. Bang, bang, bang. Wan Feng's figure flashed as he sent a palm strike at each of the 7, knocking them back and causing them to vomit blood. Their internal organs were all in a mess. What strong quintessence! It is at least 10 times denser than mine. Is he really an inferior grade martial monarch? Bai Qi exclaimed in disbelief as he fell to the ground. Gong Yangyu said hatefully, "Furthermore, the density of his quintessence is not something we can compare to. He either cultivated some heaven-ranked cultivation technique, or ate some natural treasure. His state of ice is also very strange. Even when we combine our states, we cannot compare to it." The 7 were shocked as they looked at Wan Feng, who stood proudly in the air with a disdainful expression. They felt a strong sense of helplessness. At the same time, all the experts above Martial Saint gathered in the vast Wan Clan city, and rushed to the Wan Clan's palace from 8 directions. There were at least 500 people in each direction. When the 8 gathered, there was a total of 4,000 people. With so many experts, even if a peak martial monarch was surrounded, they would be able to kill him with a single attack. Quick, quick, quick. The clan head has ordered that the Wan Clan's palace is in danger. The group rushed down the street. The somber atmosphere made the people on both sides of the street feel uncertain. Isn't today the Wan Clan's young master's wedding? Could it be that someone dares to cause trouble? Who knows? The quintessence fluctuations at the Wan Clan's palace were very intense. There might really be a huge battle. In an inn by the street, a fatso watched the Wan Clan's guards pass by. He chuckled and said, "This fat lord loves to take care of small fries." In the plaza of the Wan Clan's palace, Xiaochen looked at his stiff right hand with a grave expression. The upper half of his right arm had already lost all feeling. He could not move it at all. A cold chi rushed down from his arm like a raging river. Xiaochen revolved his quintessence and formed a dam to block this cold chi. As the cold chi burned, Xiaochen's quintessence drained continuously. If not for the purple thunder divine incantation, which was much stronger than ordinary people, he would have died. The density of his true essence was quite high. Right now, he was like an ice sculpture that would shatter at the slightest touch. His opponent's state of ice has probably reached the might of a will. The will of ice has already touched upon the door. When combined with his strong quintessence, it will reach a horrifying lethality. Xiaochen muttered to himself. However, it was still a beginner's skill. He could not use it as he pleased. The pure yang purple thunder true fire could dispel it. Sizzle. Wisps of purple flames appeared on Xiaochen's arm and spread out. The cold qi was burned by the purple flames, and turned into wisps of hot air that rose into the air. When the cold qi scattered, Xiaochen's arm immediately moved. He clenched his fist tightly, and the blocked meridians opened up again. Xiaochen glanced at Feng Feishue, who was being pulled behind Wanbalu. Then he walked over step by step. No one could change the things he had decided on and the path he had chosen. No one could stop him. Wanfeng's eyelids sank, and his gaze turned cold. He looked at Xiaochen and said in a cold voice, "Instead of taking the opportunity to escape, you still dare to come forward. Do you really think that you are not an ant?" A cold wind howled, and snowflakes drifted down. Wanfeng turned into a white beam, charging at Xiaochen with a boundless baleful aura. Xiao. Just as the cold wind was about to strike, Xiaochen drew his saber. A purple flame burned on the pitch-black lunar shadow saber. When the saber light shot out, it burned the cold qi into a puff of white smoke. Wanfeng's invincible state of ice slowly receded before Xiaochen. Then the saber light chopped down at him. Bang! The palm wind and the saber light clashed, giving off a loud sound. Xiaochen, who was on the ground, took 7 steps back. Wanfeng, who was in the air, spun around 7 times before he slowly stabilized. Wanfeng revealed a horrified expression as he muttered, "This is a lightning-attributed flame of extreme yang. However, even if it counters my state of ice, my quintessence and speed are sufficient to suppress it." Wanfeng's figure flickered, and snowflakes filled the air. He pushed off the ground and charged at Xiaochen again. This time, Wanfeng raised his speed to his limits. Everywhere he passed, only white beams could be seen. No one could see his figure clearly. Bang! 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 Snowflakes drifted down in the air. In that instant, Wanfeng sent out 50 or 60 palm strikes. The palm winds were like an avalanche. Rumbling sounds resounded in the air without end. The sky shook and the ground trembled. The entire plaza trembled due to the continuous palm winds. Instantly, the plaza was filled with flowers and countless tables. Crunching sounds came from it. The originally auspicious wedding turned into a mess, a scene of chaos. There were also some palm winds that flew out uncontrollably. When they struck the unlucky guests, they immediately froze them into icicles. They shattered upon contact, dying without a complete corpse. Xiaochen's expression remained calm. He did not dare to be careless. The density of Wanfeng's quintessence were no weaker than Xiaochen's, who cultivated a heaven-ranked cultivation technique. A blue dragon appeared under Xiaochen's feet. As the dragon roared, it carried Xiaochen up and down, flickering in all directions. Boom! 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 The saber light was like lightning. Xiaochen swung his saber repeatedly, relying on his instincts. A purple flame burned on his saber, destroying the incoming palm winds. In the time it took for a spark to fly, the two fought an intense battle. Soon, they had exchanged 100 moves. Xiaochen did not know what movement technique Wanfeng cultivated. His figure could not be seen at all. As his figure moved, he turned into white lines that wrapped around Xiaochen. From a distance, one could see countless lines forming an oval-shaped ball of light encasing Xiaochen. From time to time, shocking explosions could be heard from the ball of light. That ball of light was not stable. Sometimes it was in the sky, and sometimes it was on the ground. This frightened the many guests into standing far away, afraid that the shockwaves would affect them. Bang! The ball of light shattered, and a white figure flew out. He vomited a mouthful of blood. When he landed, the ground cracked, revealing a long crack. Yu Chenxi exclaimed in shock, "It's Xiaochen." The one that got knocked out was indeed Xiaochen. Wan Feng moved increasingly faster in the ball of light. In the end, the entire sky was filled with palm winds. Aha! Is a king-grade true dragon genius that slow? You can't even withstand a single blow. Take another move from me. Extreme in tyrannical heavenly palm. Wan Feng laughed loudly as he stood in the air. The boundless cold wind in the surroundings suddenly surged into his body. The surrounding temperature suddenly soared. It was not because Wan Feng raised the temperature, but because he sucked in all the yin energy in the place. When yin and yang were out of balance, only the chaotic pure yang energy remained. That was why the temperature increased explosively. Defeat! Wan Feng shouted ferociously, and threw a palm strike without moving from his original position. A palm of flesh descended from the sky. That palm was only several times the size of an adult's palm. However, it gave the illusion that it covered the sky and earth, leaving no place to hide. As that palm landed, the chaotic pure yang energy on the ground was pushed out and turned into clumps of yang flames. Then they shot out in all directions like 10,000 arrows. Bang! 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 The flames crashed into the buildings of the Wan clan's palace and exploded with horrifying energy. They blasted the buildings into smithereens, filling the air with dust. Such a strange martial technique driving yin and yang qi to form a method to attack the enemy was an eye-opener for the surrounding cultivators of the older generation, leaving them flabbergasted. Xiao Chen's face sank. The mental energy in his sea of consciousness quickly surged as he drained it without holding back. A purple light lit up in the depths of Xiao Chen's right eye, and a white light flickered in his left eye. The two lights were as resplendent as stars. As they shone, they looked very magnificent. Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram. Xiao Chen stretched out his hand and pointed. His mental energy was completely drained. Two beams of light shot out and quickly formed a Taiji diagram. The 8 trigrams, the 4 divisions, and all sorts of mysterious phenomena appeared. The Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram welcomed the attack with its strongest stance. Bang! The Taiji diagram gave off a golden light and clashed with the palm. An intense explosion came from it, and a bottomless pit appeared in the ground. The palm made of yin qi and the Taiji diagram exploded at the same time. Wan Feng was knocked back 100 meters, but Xiao Chen did not move at all. Wan Feng's expression changed. He muttered, "How can this be? This extreme yin tyrannical heavenly palm has no frost. Even several famous experts of the upper realm do not dare to receive it head-on. You are just an ant from the lower realm, yet you managed to receive it." Xiao Chen remained expressionless as he said calmly, "You are looking at the sky from the bottom of a well. There are many things in this world that you cannot imagine. Didn't you want to compete with me in speed? Now let's compete in speed and see who's the weakest." Roar! Xiao Chen executed the great perfection blue dragon cloud soaring art. A boundless dragon roar came from his chest. Suddenly 3 blue dragon images appeared under Xiao Chen's feet. Xiao Chen turned into an invisible azure light and shot towards Wan Feng. His speed was more than 4 times faster than before. Bang! 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 Sharp saber lights rained down like a torrential storm. Thunder roared in the sky as they chopped at Wan Feng. Unknowingly, an immortal attribute appeared in the lightning. The lightning was eternal, immortal and inextinguishable. This completely suppressed Wan Feng's basic will of ice. Xiao Chen did not beat around the bush with Wan Feng. He pressed forward bravely, pressing forward step by step. Relying on the great perfection blue dragon cloud soaring art, he forced Wan Feng back again and again. Bang! 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 Wan Feng's speed could not compare to Xiao Chen's. The immortal state of thunder and purple thunder true fire suppressed his will of ice. Wan Feng paled as he retreated again and again. His earlier arrogance was ruthlessly suppressed. He roared a few times, wanting to turn the situation around. However, Xiao Chen mercilessly suppressed him. Scram! Extreme in annihilation palm. After failing to turn the situation around several times, Wan Feng became thoroughly enraged. He burned all the quintessence in his body as he sent out a palm flickering with a cold light. Everywhere it passed, the void was directly destroyed, like a piece of white paper being torn into numerous cracks, causing one to feel fear just by looking at it. Xiao Chen smiled coldly and said, Is this your trump card, Wan Feng? In that case, I'll return what you said earlier to you. Put away that bullshit pride of yours. In the future, when you come to the Sky Dome realm, behave yourself with your tail between your legs. Chapter 638. Strength Character Formula. 33-fold increase in combat prowess. Blue Dragon goes to sea. A boundless sea appeared behind Wan Feng, and 9,999 pillars of water soared into the sky. Each pillar of water tore a pitch-black hole in space. A 3-kilometer-long saber light burst out of the saber. It pointed to the sky and stomped on the ground. That kind of destructive might cause fear to appear in Wan Feng's eyes for the first time. Bang! The saber light swept out, and that destructive palm immediately shattered into pieces, turning into nothing. It could not resist at all. The saber light did not stop there. It continued forward and struck Wan Feng's body, knocking him back like a sandbag. Wan Feng seemed to have a defensive superior grade secret treasure. As such, this saber light did not immediately split Wan Feng in half. However, the force contained in the saber light was sufficient to injure Wan Feng's internal organs. He would not be able to recover within a month. When Xiao Chen fought Sima Hong, he had the experience of executing the Blue Dragon goes to sea with the strength character formula. This time, Xiao Chen was prepared. After Xiao Chen landed, he quickly consumed a peak-grade medicinal pill to replenish his qi and blood. Although it did not have any special effects, allowing him to recover instantly, he would not be as helpless as before. Xiao Chen looked at Feng Feishue, who was behind Wan Baolu. His white robes were stained with blood. Then he did not hesitate to continue walking forward. No one could change the path that Xiao Chen had decided on. Even someone as arrogant as Wan Feng, the welcoming envoy, could not do so. The entire place fell deathly silent. No one could imagine that the nearly undefeatable Wan Feng would be defeated by Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen chopped him down with one saber strike, and no one knew if he was dead or alive. No one knew where he went. Wan Shan was so frightened that he hid behind Wan Baolu. His body trembled as he said in a quivering voice, "Father, he is coming over. What should we do? What should we do?" Wan Baolu's expression was extremely unsightly. His body could not help but tremble slightly. He forcefully pulled himself together and said, "Damn it! Why are those guards still not here? This fellow is already a spent force. 4,000 guards can definitely wear him down." At the 8 checkpoints leading to the Wan clan's palace, the Wan clan guards cried out miserably without end. There were 4 or 5 black-clad martial monarchs at each checkpoint. As long as those guards got close to the checkpoint, they would be mercilessly killed by the black-clothed men. With a martial monarch guarding the checkpoint, these people would never be able to get past the black-clothed men. On top of a tall building, Kim Taeho was watching the one-sided situation with 4 or 5 servants with great interest. "Young master, all 8 paths have been blocked. Not a single guard has been let through." With the young master taking action, this bunch of people still dare to barge in. They really overestimate themselves. "Young master, you have incredible foresight. In the blink of an eye, you destroyed this group of fellows." A group of manservants rushed to flatter Kim Taeho. Kim Taeho's chubby face was filled with enjoyment. He waved his hand and said with a smile, "They're just small fries. What's there to say? Do I look like someone who can't stay calm?" Bang! Right after Kim Taeho spoke, a figure fell from the sky, shattering the tiles on the roof. When Jean de Bao landed in front of Jean de Bao, he was startled. His fat figure moved at an incredible speed, and quickly hid behind a few manservants. However, when Kim Taeho saw this person's appearance, he laughed loudly. He pushed the servants aside and walked over. Naturally, the person who fell from the sky was none other than the Kunlun realm's Bushin Palace's welcoming envoy, Wan Feng. Xiao Chen's Blue Dragon goes to sea shattered Wan Feng's quintessence and damaged his internal organs. His external and internal injuries were severe. At this moment, he was as strong as a cripple. Wan Feng coughed intensely a few times and vomited a mouthful of blood. Then he looked around and saw the smiling Kim Taeho. Disdain and disgust flashed in Wan Feng's eyes. He said casually, "I remember you. You are the young master of the Great Tang Nation's Golden Rock Merchant Association. I'll give you a chance now. Find me a place to treat my injuries, and I can consider returning that Azure Phoenix spirit core to you." Kim Tae-ho chuckled and said, "Elder Brother Feng is indeed Elder Brother Feng. You are not even worth shit now, yet you are still so magnanimous. Why are you all still not helping Elder Brother Feng up?" When Wan Feng heard this, a murderous intent flashed in his heart. "Damn you, fatso. When I recover, I'll kill you first." However, Wan Feng was currently severely injured and could not afford to flare up. He looked at the manservants helping him up and smiled. "At least you are sensible. I am the welcoming envoy of the upper realm. If you work for me, you will obtain unimaginable benefits. If you serve me well, I can give you a spot to go to the Kunlun realm. It is not impossible." "Ah! Pa!" The manservants loosened their grip. Wan Feng, who had just gotten up, fell back down with a bang. This affected the injuries in his body. He could not help crying out in pain. Kim Tae-ho demanded angrily, "How can you all help me up? Don't you know that this is the welcoming envoy of the upper realm, Elder Brother Feng? If you offend him, he can flick you to death with just one finger." "Elder Brother Feng. Elder Brother Feng. Let me help you up. These fellows do not know how to do things." Dragging his fat body, Kim Tae-ho wobbled over and helped Wan Feng up again. "I'll endure." At this moment, Wan Feng no longer had any temper. He only wanted to find a place to treat his injuries before dealing with this group of fellows. He forced a smile and said, it's fine. I can still afford to fall with such minor injuries. Come help me down first." Kim Tae-ho gently let go of Wan Feng's hand and chuckled. "No problem. This fat lord will send you down now. Stand firmly and don't move. Don't ever move. That's right. Just maintain this posture." Wan Feng's originally unstable body suddenly started thumping. He felt that something was wrong for no reason. Before he could react, he suddenly received a heavy blow to his butt. Suddenly, he received a heavy blow on his buttocks. His body was like a rubber ball, rolling down the roof with banging sounds. Bang. After falling from a height of nearly 100 meters, Wan Feng's body bounced heavily twice. He opened his mouth and vomited a mouthful of blood. Then he cried out in agony. Up on the roof, Kim Tae-ho retracted his leg and went to the eaves with a few manservants. When they saw Wan Feng in a sorry state, they all laughed loudly. "Elder Brother Feng, I'm sorry. Your butt is too stylish. This fat lord really could not help it. I apologize to you." Kim Tae-ho chuckled as he fanned himself with a golden fan. The fat on his face jiggled. Wan Feng, who was on the ground, flew into a rage out of humiliation. At this moment, he finally understood that this fatso did not care about him at all. From the very start, Fatso had been toying with him. "Damn you, Fatso. You can laugh all you want now. When I recover in the future, I will definitely kill your entire family," Wan Feng said to Kim Tae-ho coldly and mercilessly as he struggled to stand up. If looks could kill, Kim Tae-ho would have died long ago. "Bastard. How dare you scold my young master? Are you tired of living? I will spit on you to death." Bah. Before Kim Tae-ho could say anything, the manservants behind him found an opportunity to curry favor. All of them immediately spat on Wan Feng. Under the joint efforts of the manservants, their spittle really fell like rain, and it didn't stop. Wan Feng's face turned green, startled. Since he entered the Extremine sect, he had never received such treatment. Even when he was humiliated in the past, it had never been this severe. Unexpectedly, he was being bullied by a few inexperienced manservants from the lower realm, spitting on him. However, Wan Feng did not have a good way to deal with this. He could only drag his severely injured body around miserably, fearing that the spit would land on him. Kim Tae-ho waved his hand and smiled. "Stop right there. What did this fat lord teach you all normally? This is the Kunlun realm's elder brother Feng. It is not easy for him to come to the Sky Dome realm, and this is how you greet him." Wan Feng stopped and wiped off the spit on his face. Then he heaved a sigh of relief. This fatso finally knew his limits. He did not dare to offend Wan Feng to death. Whoosh! A strong gust of wind blew over. Wan Feng raised his head and saw a golden coffin lid falling from the sky, slamming heavily on his body. The huge force sent Wan Feng tumbling in the air. His nose caved in, and a few of his front teeth fell out. Then he vomited blood in the air. His entire body flipped 360 degrees over 100 times before landing heavily on the ground. Holding the coffin lid, Kim Tae-ho smiled heartlessly. How can this be considered a reception if it does not hurt or itch? Is that right, elder brother Feng? Hee. Elder brother Feng feels so good that he is speechless. In that case, let me do it a few more times. Hearing Kim Tae-ho's approaching footsteps, Wan Feng, who was on the verge of fainting, suddenly jolted awake. Kim Tae-ho's harmless smile was like that of a demon in Wan Feng's heart. No, even a demon would not be as scary as this fellow. Recalling the encounter from before, Wan Feng suddenly came to his senses. He took out the Azure Luan inner core from his spatial ring and handed it over. I was wrong. I'll return this inner core to you. We don't owe each other anything. Kim Tae-ho chuckled and said, What are you talking about? I didn't hear you. This feels really good. Bang! After Xiao Chen finished speaking, the wide coffin lid smashed Wan Feng into the air again with another bang. Intense pain caused Wan Feng's entire body to tremble. He felt like he was better off dead. Ehe. I really couldn't tell that elder brother Feng had such a hobby. In that case, this fat lord will reluctantly slap you a few more times. Xiao Chen did not show any mercy. This time, Wan Feng completely lost all hope. He handed over the spirit core and said with teary eyes, Lord Jin, I was wrong. I should not have worked with the Wan clan to cheat you. What did you say? Speak louder. This fat lord does not have elder brother Feng's cultivation. Kim Tae-ho said with a chuckle as he placed the coffin lid in front of him. Plop. Wan Feng knelt on the ground, enduring the indescribable pain. He said loudly, Lord Jin, I was really wrong. I will not dare to cheat you again. Kim Tae-ho smiled and said, I told you long ago. This fat lord has never suffered a loss in my life. Since you admit your mistake, this fat lord will be a great person, and forgive you. The treasures on you should be barely enough to make up for this fat lord's losses. Kim Tae-ho waved his hand, and the manservants immediately understood what fatso meant. They rushed over and pulled out everything on Wan Feng's body, taking out everything of value. At this moment, Wan Feng could not resist at all. He felt grief and indignation in his heart, but there was nothing he could do. Soon, everything was pulled out, and he lay naked on the ground. Young master, this is the most valuable thing. It seems to be a superior grade secret treasure. One of the manservants handed a damaged inner vest to Jin Fatso, like he was presenting a treasure. Chapter 639. Kim Tae-ho's eyes lit up. He smiled and said, No wonder this fellow can withstand the beating. It turns out that he is wearing a superior grade inner vest. Let's go and see what the situation is like in the Wan clan's palace. Let's see if there are any more benefits to be gained. Young master, what should we do with this fellow? He is just lying here naked. After all, he is the welcoming envoy of the Kunlun realm. Kim Tae-ho thought for a while, and casually took out a pair of underwear from his spatial ring. Then he tossed it to Wan Feng and said casually, This fat lord has been extremely benevolent to you. Don't forget the favor of this fat lord giving you underwear. That looks like a woman's underwear. Young master. Damn it. This fat lord's hobby has been exposed. I am too embarrassed to face others. Quickly scram. Kim Tae-ho moved forward at lightning speed with a shio sound. He left behind a few manservants to exchange glances. Since when did this fellow have any face? After everyone left, the naked Wan Feng hugged the red underwear and curled up into a ball. Wan Feng could no longer hold it in and burst into tears. His cries were filled with sorrow and grief. Those who were not in the know would think that 10-odd strong men had taken away the most precious chastity of a girl. Naturally, the people in the plaza did not know what happened to Wan Feng. Otherwise, they would be flabbergasted. At this moment, everyone's gazes were focused on the white-robed bladesman, who was walking continuously towards Feng Feishue. At this moment, Xiao Chen did not seem to be in a good state, looking like he would collapse at any moment. However, Wan Baolu and his son, who were blocking Feng Feishue, trembled in fear, not daring to make a move. No one could say for sure how much strength Xiao Chun had left. Even someone as strong as Wan Feng lost to him. If he still had trump cards, only death awaited them if they made a move. The Wan clan's father and son enjoyed glory and honor. Their days were much more leisurely than ordinary people's. The more this was so, the more they feared death. As the Wan clan's father and son approached, they were caught between a rock and a hard place. They did not dare to step forward and fight, but they were also not willing to hand over Feng Feishue after spending so much effort. Enough. Just at this moment, a deep and cold snort suddenly rang out, resounding through the heavens and earth. That voice contained boundless power. These two words were like thunder, shaking heaven and earth. A powerful aura pressed down on Xiao Chun like a mountain. That power was many times stronger than Xiao Chun's. Just the aura alone was enough to make Xiao Chun unable to move. His feet felt like they were filled with lead stones. Wan Bao's face lit up and he said, "The old ancestor took action." An old man in embroidered robes seemed to appear out of nowhere, and appeared in front of Xiao Chun, blocking his path. His deep eyes stared at Xiao Chun. The guests in the plaza all showed fear on their faces. They all shook their heads and sighed. In the end, the white-robed bladesman cannot advance any further. The Wan clan's martial sage has made a move. Isn't there a rumor that if one makes a move against Xiao Chun in the Sky Dome realm, there will be bad consequences? This is just a rumor. It might not be true. Furthermore, the Wan clan is already forced to this extent. If they still do not make a move, are they really going to let Xiao Chun bring Feng Feishue away in front of everyone? At this moment, Xiao Chun is already an arrow at the end of its flight. A martial sage can destroy him in one move. I really don't believe there will be any bad consequences. All sorts of discussions resounded. Although there was a rumor that if a martial sage made a move against the bearer of luck in the Sky Dome realm, there would be bad consequences, not many people believed it. This was because the current Xiao Chun looked too weak. First, he defeated 36 martial monarchs. Then he defeated the 8 great guardian deities. Finally, he sent the Kunlun realm's Wan Feng flying. All these were already incredible. With Xiao Chun's current cultivation, even if he did not exhaust his quintessence, he would be close to it. If any martial monarch among them dared to take a gamble, they would be able to stop Xiao Chun. What more a martial sage in perfect condition? The Wan clan's martial sage said sullenly, "Little friend, today, you caused a huge commotion in the Wan clan, showing off before everyone. My Wan clan also suffered heavy losses because of you. If you leave now, I will not blame you for today's matter." In reality, the moment Xiao Chun arrived at the Wan clan's palace, this person had already noticed him. However, he feared the rumor and did not dare to make a move. The bearer of luck carried the luck of the great thousand realms, and was protected by the heavenly Tao. Martial sages already touched the threshold of the heavenly Tao. If they made a move against the bearer of luck, the heavenly Tao would immediately notice. Sima Hong did not believe this and tried to kill Xiao Chun. However, this was the will of heaven. Not only did Sima Hong fail, but he was also hung at the gates of Saber City, losing his reputation and face. With Sima Hong as a precedent, the Wan clan's martial sage had to be cautious. He had been holding back and not making a move. However, at this moment, he had no choice but to make a move. Since ancient times, Xiao Chun was the first inferior grade martial monarch to be treated so politely by a martial sage. Everyone looked at Xiao Chun, waiting for him to speak, to see how he would answer. Xiao Chun shook his head and said, "I have not seen the person I want to meet yet. I will not leave." Such an answer was unexpected, shocking everyone. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chun rejected a martial sage's suggestion. Where did he get his confidence from? The Wan clan's martial sage's expression turned grave, and a murderous intent appeared in his eyes. He said, "Have you made up your mind to barge in?" A vast quintessence surged in Xiao Chun's body. Winds blew and clouds churned behind him. Suddenly, the clear sky turned dark, looking even more terrifying than the old man's expression. This person was truly angry. All the guests felt the strong killing chi in the surging winds and clouds, as vast as the sea. Before that aura, Xiao Chun was as insignificant as an ant, not even an ant. Xiao Chun said calmly, I have never thought of destroying the Wan clan. I just want to lift that red veil and ask her if marrying into the Wan clan is her original intention. If it is, I will turn around and leave. If it is not, I will follow my promise and bring her away. This person was very clear on how Feng Feishue came to the Wan clan. Naturally, he would not let Xiaochen ask her. Since you insist on doing this, don't blame me for bullying the weak. The Wan clan's martial sage was going to make his move. Everyone could already guess what would happen next. When they saw Xiaochen's blood-stained white robes, they could not help but reveal an expression of pity. Xiao. Just at this moment, the situation changed. The black bag on Xiaochen's back suddenly opened up, and a simple, rectangular wooden box flew out and landed heavily on the ground. It was like an invisible wall spread out from the wooden box. In that instant, the pressure that the martial sage's aura exerted on Xiaochen vanished, and his body returned to normal. The Wan clan's martial sage narrowed his eyes and exclaimed, "Divine weapon!" The might of the divine weapon shook the Tianwu continent. The Wan clan's martial sage no longer dared to delay, and immediately made his move. However, it was already too late. Kasie. Kasie. The 4 wooden boards fell, and the divine weapon, the heavenly universe sword, floated quietly in the air. An ancient and strong aura burst forth from it. The divine weapon shattered the momentum of the Wan clan's martial sage's attack, collapsing on its own. The holy seal in Xiaochen's sea of consciousness turned into a clump of golden flame and burned quickly. All sorts of wondrous energies spread throughout his body, giving him the right to use the divine weapon temporarily. Xiaochen stretched out his hand and clenched it. A resonant sword hum tore through the clouds. The divine weapon was drawn. In an instant, the sky turned dark. The sun, moon, and stars appeared. The tens of thousands of people in the plaza felt like they were standing in the boundless starry heavens. Xiaochen grasped the divine weapon tightly and felt an unparalleled energy circulating in his meridians. It felt like he could pluck the stars and grab the moon, twisting the universe, omnipotent. Chop. Xiaochen shouted ferociously and chopped with his saber. The world regained its calm. Everyone looked up and saw the unparalleled Wan clan's martial sage flying backward. Space shattered behind the Wan clan's martial sage. After flying for an unknown distance, the Wan clan's martial sage crashed into a mountain outside Wan clan city, turning that tall mountain into dust. The divine weapon returned to its scabbard, and a strong energy flowed out of Xiaochen's body like flowing water. He felt dizzy and extremely weak. Even the Wan clan's old ancestor had been sent flying by Xiaochen. The Wan clan's father and son were frightened out of their wits. They completely lost their courage and fled in a sorry state. Xiaochen calmed himself and walked forward step by step in front of all the heroes of the world. The distance between him and Feng Feishue grew shorter and shorter. Soon he arrived before her. This fellow really walked over. Martial monarchs cannot stop him. The 8 great guardian deities cannot stop him. Now even a martial sage cannot stop him. Such an incredible scene appeared before everyone's eyes. The shock in the hearts of the many guests could no longer be described with words. In the distance, the Wan clan's martial sage walked out from the collapsed mountain peak. There was a horrifying wound on his chest. It was so deep that bones could be seen. The automatic recovery function of the sage body seemed to have lost its effect. Blood flowed out continuously from the wound. You dog. You actually brought a divine weapon. Let's see how many more times you can use it. The Wan clan's martial sage raged, wanting to soar into the sky. Bang! A strong palm wind tore through the air and knocked back the Wan clan's martial sage. It was the myriad fiend palaces in Zixuan who had promised to protect Xiaochen. And Zixuan, since when is it your heavenly fiend palaces turn to interfere in the matters of my Wan clan? And Zixuan could not be bothered with the berserk Wan clan's martial sage. I can do whatever I want. Since when is it your turn to care? Just stay here obediently. The Wan clan's martial sage was flustered. However, he was not a match for Zixuan in the first place. Now that he was injured, he was even weaker. On the other side, Xiaochen removed the restriction on Feng Feishue. Then, he slowly removed the red cloth covering her head, revealing a beautiful face that could topple nations. Feng Feishue's eyes misted over. She choked as she said, "You really came." Xiao Chen smiled faintly and said, "For years ago, outside Mo City, I promised to do something for you. I will definitely come to fulfill my promise to you for the rest of my life." Xiao. Xiao Chen tore off the cloth covering his head and summoned out the scarlet throne. Then he helped the severely injured Feng Tianming onto it. Then he carried Feng Feixue and turned into a red cloud soaring into the sky, slowly disappearing from everyone's sight. After a long time, the crowd withdrew their gazes. When they saw the sorry state of the plaza, they could not help but sigh. The vast One clan had 36 martial monarchs, the 8 great guardian deities, and a martial sage. However, Xiao Chen single-handedly turned it upside down, inflicting heavy losses. After this day, the Wan clan's reputation in the continent would plummet. It might even lose its position as the top merchant association. A king-grade true dragon genius is indeed extraordinary. The Sky Dome realm really cannot hide him. Chapter 640. Back then, even the Thunder King was not this unbridled, challenging the top merchant association of the world for a promise. It is really hard to imagine that Xiao Chen really charged into the Wan clan, and even brought the person away for the sake of a promise. The group of people discussed the matter. In this greedy world, there were still people who could keep their promises, daring to risk their lives. This was truly rare. This was especially so when Xiao Chen still had a bright future ahead of him. Despite knowing that a martial sage was holding down the fort, he still risked his life and rushed over. "Let's go. There is nothing more for us to do here. This wedding is just a farce for the Wan clan." The guests that came all scattered, heading for the gates of the Wan clan's palace. The experts guarding the underground treasure room of the Wan clan's palace all fell to the ground. Their corpses were all dead from one fatal strike. In the treasure room, a group of black-clothed men were excitedly plundering the treasures in every corner of the room. One of the black-clad people was particularly eye-catching. His large body was forced to wear black clothes, which looked extremely awkward. He looked like he might burst at any moment. "Young master, unexpectedly, it is so easy to break through the Wan clan's treasure room. We are rich this time." That fatso chuckled and said, "That brother Xiao of mine is too awesome. He injured all the 8 great guardian deities. Otherwise we would not have come so easily." The group of people were like hungry wolves entering a sheep's den. They moved around continuously, and the various treasures in the treasure room disappeared quickly. Normally, there were many people who targeted the Wan clan's headquarters. However, with the 8 great guardian deities guarding it, practically no one succeeded. Today the 8 great guardian deities were all severely injured. Kim Taeho led the Jin clan's martial monarchs to launch a sneak attack. This was a great bargain. If the Wan treasure tower knew that the treasure room was ransacked, he would probably die from anger. The treasure room contained half of the Wan clan's wealth. Who knew how long it would take for the Wan clan to recover from such a loss? High in the sky above the Wan clan's plaza, Wan Feng's master, the extreme old man, looked down at the mess below expressionlessly. The Haotian sect's elder Feng stood quietly behind him. "Old Feng, this time, your Haotian sect has really recruited a genius from the lower realm. I reckon that he is not much weaker than the true disciples of your sect." Old Feng smiled faintly and said, "Senior Extreme Yin speaks too highly of him. Compared to the geniuses recorded in Bushan Palace, his accumulations as a martial king are still lacking. Furthermore, he has not experienced a truly grand occasion." The extreme old man said, "These words are not wrong. Whether it is a true dragon or not, we can only know after the baptism of the Kunlun realm." After a pause, the extreme old man said, "You should go. Although this old man's reputation is not good, I still have this much magnanimity. I will not make a move against an insignificant martial monarch." When old Feng heard this, he heaved a sigh of relief. Although the old man before him looked amiable, he was infamous in the Kunlun realm. Even the cultivators of the other races feared him. Xiao Chen had defeated his little disciple in front of everyone. Old Feng worried that the old man would not be able to resist making a move. If that happened, even if Xiao Chen had a divine weapon, only death awaited him. "Many thanks, Senior. After obtaining a definite answer, Old Feng bowed slightly. Then he turned into a beam of light and flew back to the Haotian sect. After Old Feng left, the extreme old man's expression suddenly sank. He looked in the direction of Nzixuan and muttered, "Unexpectedly, this fellow is related to the experts of the fiend race." Xiao. The extreme old man withdrew his gaze and thought for a while. Then he stopped thinking and casually tore space apart. He appeared on a roof and smiled coldly as he looked at Wan Feng, who was wearing a pair of red floral underwear. When Wan Feng felt the gaze from above, he looked up. His body trembled involuntarily as he said, "Master, this disciple has embarrassed you. I only ask for a quick death." The extreme old man smiled coldly and said, "Why would I kill you? It was not my tacit approval. Who in the Sky Dome realm can injure you?" Wan Feng's expression froze. He exclaimed, "Master, you saw everything?" The extreme old man nodded without batting an eyelid. He said, "In the future you won't be so arrogant anymore, right? Even a lion needs to use its full power to capture a rabbit. You are not a lion yet, so where is your dog's hit pride coming from? What is the use of thinking about all these crooked paths for cultivation? You will not be able to achieve anything great. In the future, break off all ties with the Wan clan, and focus all your attention on cultivation. If anyone slaps your face, slap them back 100-fold, 1,000-fold. Wan Feng suddenly understood what the extreme old man was trying to do. The other party had clearly seen all of his actions. The extreme old man wanted to use this opportunity to teach himself a lesson. On the other hand, he wanted to temper his mental state. Many thanks for Master's teachings. This disciple will definitely turn over a new leaf. I will not embarrass the extreme sect again." The extreme old man did not say anything more. He casually grabbed Wan Feng and flew off into the distance. As the powerhouses left one by one, the farce of the Wan clan's wedding officially came to an end. At the border of the Great Jin Nation and the Great Qin Nation, Yu had been waiting with the Imperial Dragon Legion for a long time already. After handing Wan Feng over to the other party, Xiaochen flew to the Heavenly Saber Pavilion alone. The Heavenly Saber Pavilion was as calm as usual. No one knew that Xiaochen, who had just returned, had done such a shocking thing in the boundless distance. "Senior, fortunately, I did not disappoint you. I did not lose the divine weapon." When Xiaochen felt the power of the divine weapon, he felt even more grateful to Lung Tianyun for lending him the divine weapon. Lung Tianyun was not in a rush to receive the divine weapon. He looked at Xiaochen's injuries and said, "Don't be in a rush to leave. Let me take a look at your injuries." After a series of battles, especially when he used the strength character formula to execute the blue dragon returns from the sea, Xiaochen's injuries had reached a horrifying level. Lung Tianyun placed his right hand on Xiaochen's meridians and carefully checked them. He exclaimed in shock, "Your physical body is extraordinarily strong. If other martial monarchs acted as recklessly as you did, they would have died long ago. However, your situation is not much better now. There is still half a month before we leave the Sky Dome realm. During this period of time, you should stay here and focus on recuperating." Lung Tianyun personally made a move. He used his origin energy and the peak medicinal herbs that the Heavenly Saber Pavilion had accumulated to help Xiaochen recover quickly. 7 days later, Xiaochen had completely recovered from all his injuries. He was brimming with energy and vigor. The battle at the Wan clan's palace had given Xiaochen many comprehensions. This was especially so when he fought with Wan Feng. Wan Feng's will of ice had given him a lot of inspiration. Before martial monarch, only cultivators with a peak state could be considered geniuses. Only then could they fight above their cultivation realm. However, when one reached martial monarch, states were commonplace. Only by raising their states to a will could they fight above their cultivation realm. Wan Feng could treat martial monarchs like they were nothing. Aside from his accumulated quintessence, which was much higher than that of the Sky Dome realm's martial monarchs, the most important reason was his comprehension of the will of ice. If Wan Feng's will of ice could improve further, even with the Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram, and the 33-fold increase in combat prowess, victory would still be difficult for Xiaochen. "I have to make good use of my time and comprehend my will of ice. Xiaochen said with a resolute gaze as he clenched his right fist tightly. After making up his mind, Xiaochen immediately went to look for Leng Tianyan. With such a martial sage around, it would be a waste not to seek his guidance. When Leng Tianyan found out why Xiaochen was here, he could not help but laugh loudly. He said, "How old are you? Already, you want to comprehend a will?" Xiaochen could not understand. He asked, "Could it be that the will has something to do with age?" Leng Tianyan nodded and said, "It does not have anything to do with age. However, some people live for 500 or 600 years and become a martial sage. Even so, they might not be able to comprehend their will. Raising a state to a will depends on talent, breadth of vision, and fortuitous encounters. Talent goes without saying. It is a person's comprehension ability. Since you can create the 4-season saber technique, your comprehension ability is definitely not bad. The so-called breadth of vision is the experience of a cultivator. The great thousand realms are boundless. There are all sorts of mysteries, countless. How much do you think you have experienced? Even if you have achieved all that, without the right opportunity, you will never be able to comprehend your own will." Xiaochen entered deep thought. However, he felt a little suspicious. He asked, "That welcoming envoy Wan Feng is only 3 or 4 years older than me. However, he already touched the threshold of a will. Why is that?" Leng Tianyan smiled faintly and said, "That is not a will. If I remember correctly, the Extreme sect has a special cultivation technique that can strengthen the state of ice. It can raise the might of the peak state of ice by 20%. If he really comprehended a will, you would not be a match for him. 10 years ago, I advanced to martial sage. Even in the Kunlun realm, my talent is considered outstanding. However, I have not comprehended my own will. To think that a will is so difficult to comprehend." Xiaochen frowned heavily. Unexpectedly, even Leng Tianyan has not comprehended a will of his own. In terms of talent and breadth of vision, the other party should be pretty good. In that case, the time for fortuitous encounters has not arrived. Leng Tianyan stood up and waved his hand. A cool breeze immediately blew in the room. As the cool breeze circulated, it carried a gentle warmth that made one feel relaxed and comfortable. "Xiao!" Suddenly Leng Tianyan stretched out his hand and tapped. The cool breeze blew gently, but it contained a bone-chilling chill. The strength of the wind did not change, but when it struck the body, it felt even more painful than a knife. Boom! Leng Tianyan stretched out his hand again, and a strong wind blew, buzzing loudly. Even the room trembled intensely. Chi, chi, chi. In that instant, the strong wind stopped and turned into thousands of thin wind arrows, riddling the entire room with holes. Sunlight shone in through the holes. When the thousands of light beams intertwined, they formed mottled shadows on the ground, illuminating the room. When Xiaochen saw all this, he could not help but feel astonished. The simple wind could produce so many scenes in Leng Tianyan's hands. Given Xiaochen's current cultivation, he would not be able to do so within 10 years. Xiaochen could blow out a cool breeze or send out a berserk palm wind that could flip the roof off. However, he could not do it as freely as Leng Tianyan did. Leng Tianyan withdrew his hand and stood upright. He muttered, "I have already touched the threshold of the will of wind. All I need is a fortuitous encounter, and I will be able to break through." You cannot imitate the earlier demonstration. Just treat it as broadening your horizons. There is a huge difference between thunder and wind. How you comprehend it depends on yourself. Xiaochen quickly performed a cupped fist salute in thanks. This demonstration had indeed made him feel enlightened. He discovered that his previous way of thinking was too limited. Chapter 641. In a few days, you will be going to the Kunlun realm. I have a request. Xiaochen said, "Senior, please speak your mind. If I can do it, I will do my best to do it." There was a trace of worry in Leng Tianyan's eyes. He muttered, "However, during the Golden Age there will be a great calamity. However, the 5,000 years of Golden Age will slowly come to an end amidst peace. However, the laws of history will not change. The great calamity this time might be a great calamity that happens once every 10,000 years. In the future, If you really manage to ascend to the Great Tao, I hope that you will take care of the Heavenly Saber Pavilion. Xiao Chen smiled bitterly and said, The Great Tao is difficult, harder than ascending to the heavens. Senior's words are too far-fetched. The so-called Great Calamity is just overthinking it. Lung Tianyin sighed softly. I am not overthinking it. 10,000 years ago, there was a vast demonic calamity. The Tianwu dynasty, which had been glorious for tens of thousands of years, vanished like smoke. The 9 dragon veins of the Tianwu continent escaped, and the spiritual energy of the world turned chaotic. Even today, it has not recovered. Xiao Chen still felt that Lung Tianyin was exaggerating. However, after thinking for a while, he still agreed. If one day, I really manage to ascend to the Great Tao, I will definitely not sit by and watch the Heavenly Saber Pavilion ignore me. After leaving Lung Tianyin's room, Xiao Chen spent another half a day refining the countenance-halting pill. Then he handed it to Lu Ruyue. His train of thought had expanded significantly. Xiao Chen decided to leave and spend the last moments of his time in the Sky Dome realm at Thunder Emperor Valley. He wanted to see if he could find his own fortuitous encounter in the immortal will that the Thunder King left behind. Tears welled up in Lu Ruyue's eyes as she hugged Xiao Chen, unwilling to let go for a long time. Xiao Chen, will this be an eternal parting? Xiao Chen felt a slight sourness in his heart. He wiped away the tears from the corners of her eyes and smiled. Definitely not. Wait for me to return. This night, the two spent a long time together. As Lu Ruyue slept soundly, Xiao Chen gently kissed her forehead. Then he put on his clothes and left quietly. Before the sky brightened, Xiao Chen took one last look at the beautiful Qingyan Peak. He had too many memories on this peak. After this parting, Xiao Chen did not know when he would be able to return. However, he had to go to the Kunlun realm. No matter how reluctant he was, he could only hide the bitterness in his heart. Let's go. Since ancient times, sages have always been lonely. From the moment you decided to walk the path to the peak of cultivation, you were destined to be lonely. Ao Jiao said softly from the lunar shadow saber. Back then, she had witnessed the rise of the Thunder King. Now that a similar situation had occurred once again, she was filled with mixed emotions. Xiao Chen took a deep breath, no longer reluctant to leave this mountain and grass, and bid farewell. When Xiao Chen flew over Saber City, he discovered a girl standing at the top of the city wall. When he looked carefully, it was Feng Feishue, dressed in men's clothing. She had a faint smile on her face as she watched him fly in the air. Xiao Chen's figure flickered, and he instantly landed on the city wall, standing across from Feng Feishue. Feng Feishue took out a spatial ring and handed it to Xiao Chen. She said, "The Dragon Phoenix cauldron that you left with me. All the materials that the Feng clan has for refining secret treasures are in there. Finally, there are 100,000 superior grade spirit stones. I hope they will be of help to you." 100,000 superior grade spirit stones was a large sum. Right now, Xiao Chen only had a total of 80,000 superior grade spirit stones on him. Xiao Chen urgently needed superior grade spirit stones. Be it for cultivation or as currency after he went to the Kunlun realm, they would be very useful. Many thanks. Feng Feishue smiled gently and suddenly kissed Xiao Chen on the lips. She said, "Take this kiss as a token of my thanks. Now that I have complete control over the Feng clan, I will help you look after the Heavenly Saber Pavilion and the Xiao clan." Xiao Chen touched his lips and could not help but smile. "I only found out today that this kiss of mine is so valuable. Do you want to kiss me a few more times?" Feng Feishue blushed and giggled. "I would not dare to mess around. That person from your clan would kill me. Let's go, stop being so wishy-washy." As the sun set, Xiao Chen arrived at Thunder Emperor Valley. When the many old men in Thunder Emperor Valley saw Xiao Chen's arrival, they were startled. Several of them were the old men that Xiao Chen had knocked down previously. Without saying anything, these people immediately scattered, leaving one by one. These fellows are really cowardly. It is as though you will eat them up. With such courage, what fortuitous encounters can they obtain in Thunder Emperor Valley? Ao Jiao said indifferently. Xiao Chen found a place to sit down cross-legged. He said calmly, "It is good that they left, it is peaceful." Thunder roared in Xiao Chen's ears. and a horrifying might spread out. The will of thunder wandering in the clouds did not show any signs of dissipating even after thousands of years, as though it would exist forever. Suddenly, Xiaochen had an idea. He said, "Ao Jiao, do you think that if I subdue this will, I will comprehend the will of thunder?" Ao Jiao snorted coldly and said, "That is easy for you. Since it is the immortal lightning, how can it be subdued by others? Unless your strength surpasses that of the Thunder King back then." Xiaochen smiled and did not say anything more. He closed his eyes and started to comprehend. The half-step martial monarchs that Xiaochen chased away did not go far. They all floated a kilometer away from Thunder Emperor Valley, smiling coldly as they looked at Xiaochen. This fellow is really reckless. Thunder Emperor Valley never allows cultivators above martial monarch to remain. Let's wait and see how the lightning strikes him to death. That is the immortal divine lightning. Even a peak martial monarch would not be able to withstand it. When he dies, we will split the treasures on him evenly. Xiaochen did not open his eyes. However, he sent out his spiritual sense and clearly heard the expressions of these people, as well as what they said. He smiled faintly to himself and ignored them. As the successor of the Thunder King, he had the lunar shadow saber to back him up. How could the immortal divine lightning attack him for no reason? These people were probably going to be disappointed. In the ancient desolate land, a man carrying a sword on his back walked calmly on the surface of the vast heavenly extermination lake. As this man walked, ripples spread out on the surface of the water. White clouds drifted in the clear sky. However, there was a pitch-black mark in this paper-like sky, looking very out of place. When one got closer, one would discover that the mark was actually a thick patch of black clouds. Below the thick black clouds was an island shrouded in yin qi. When the youth carrying the sword looked at the scene in front, he smiled faintly and said, "The headquarters of the Dark Church is not much different from what I expected." This person was Chu Chaoyan, who had not appeared for a long time after the Five-Nation Youth competition. For some reason, he actually appeared here. Behind Chu Chaoyan stood several strong cultivators with unfathomable auras. Among them were the sacred Heavenly Church's bishop, the mysterious master of the Devil Savannah's Black Knights, and the Black Dragon Group's chief. At this moment, all the influential major characters stood behind Chu Chaoyan. However, they all appeared strangely respectful. In a secret room of the palace on the island, a man shrouded in black qi sat cross-legged. If one looked carefully, one would discover that this black-clad man's appearance actually resembled Xiaochen's. Xiao. An image of the black-clad man sitting cross-legged stood up. The image slowly turned solid and soon looked no different from the real person. The black-clad man pushed open the door to the secret room. The guard standing at the side was startled and said, "Church Master, you are out of closed-door cultivation. Quickly go and inform the Church Master. It is just a clone. There is no need to make a big fuss about it." The black-clad man smiled faintly and walked forward. Soon, the Church Master rushed over with a group of disciples. When they saw this person, they immediately knelt and said, "Church Master, why did you come out of closed-door cultivation?" The black-clad man waved his hand, and a formless energy instantly wrapped around this group of people. He said, "Come with me to meet the guest." Huqi, the mysterious black-clad man from the Dark Church, waved his hand and led the group of people into the air. In a few breaths, they arrived before Chu Chaoyan. The mysterious black-clad man looked at Chu Chaoyan and smiled faintly. "Interesting. Unexpectedly, a group of descendants of the Tianwu dynasty that I destroyed 10,000 years ago came to work with me today." Chu Chaoyan smiled faintly and said, "As long as our goal is the same, it does not matter who we work with. However, your strength disappoints me." Right after Chu Chaoyan spoke, a golden flame suddenly burned in Chu Chaoyan's eyes. A golden heavenly flame poured out and instantly set the black-clad man ablaze. "The might is pretty good. Unfortunately, it is too slow. This insignificant clone of mine can easily dodge it." The mysterious black-clad man reappeared before Chu Chaoyan and smiled. Then he used his palm as a saber and thrust it at Chu Chaoyan's chest. Dang! A golden light descended from the sky and turned solid. The black-clad man's palm stabbed into Chu Chaoyun's chest, giving off a metallic sound that shook the sky. Kasi. Kasie. The materialized light shattered inch by inch like a mirror. When it landed on the calm surface of the lake, it erupted into pillars of water that soared into the sky. When the light scattered, the mysterious black-clad man smiled faintly and said, "Not bad. Your comprehension of the ancestors' technique is not bad. You too. Back then, the sword strike of the Qing emperor did not cripple you." Chu Chaoyun retorted, not showing any fear of this person. He said, "Cut the nonsense. Open the gates to the demonic world." The mysterious black-clad man said unhurriedly, "There's no rush. We still have to wait for one more person. Without her, even if you go to the demonic world, you will not be able to learn the high-ranked martial techniques of the demon race." Who? Just at this moment, a girl wearing a purple dress and a veil descended from the distant sky. This girl had a purple mark on her forehead. Her spirited eyes were very captivating. With just one glance, one's heart surged with emotions, wanting to sink into it forever. Chu Chaoyun showed a startled expression. He felt a formless danger from this girl. He asked, "Who is she?" "Lung Yu, one of the 18 demon monarchs of the deep abyss demonic world." The black-clad man said indifferently. As the sun rose and set, the rumbling thunder in the Thunder Emperor Valley never stopped. It has already been 5 days. Why is this fellow not dead yet? This is illogical. This is really strange. For the past 5 days, we have not moved a single step. However, that immortal divine lightning seems to recognize this brat. Nothing happened to it. I feel a little dizzy. My essence is almost depleted. If we continue waiting like this, before this brat dies, we will fall into the sea. Let's wait a little longer. This fellow is a true dragon-grade sovereign genius. He must have a lot of spirit stones, medicinal pills, and treasures on him. Indeed, this opportunity is hard to come by. This is a free benefit. The half-step martial monarchs waiting for Xiao Chun to be struck by lightning were almost out of essence. However, they still gritted their teeth and waited with intense anticipation. Chapter 642. Up in Thunder Emperor Valley, Xiao Chun opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with purple electricity. In the past 5 days, Xiao Chun's understanding of lightning had improved by another level. Originally, there was no lightning in the world. Lightning was not like wind, fire, or water, which existed for a long time. Only when wind and clouds gathered would lightning appear. Lightning did not exist in isolation. If there was no wind and no clouds, there would be no lightning. It was just like the immortal divine lightning above Thunder Emperor Valley. Without the dark clouds that moved with the wind and lingered for a long time, no matter how powerful the Thunder King was, his will of thunder would not be able to last forever. After comprehending this point, a vague image of the will of thunder appeared in Xiao Chun's mind. Although Xiao Chun had not formally grasped the basics, he now had a general direction. He would not be as confused as before. In the blink of an eye, half a year has passed. Today, I have to gather at Dragon Sealing City, Xiao Chun muttered as he stood up. Xiao Chun glanced at the half-step martial monarchs waiting for him to be struck by lightning. He could not help but find it funny. Xiao Chun pushed off the ground, and a blue dragon image appeared. As it moved up and down, Xiao Chun silently arrived behind these people. He smiled and asked, "Old sirs, what are you all waiting for?" "What else can we be waiting for?" "Waiting for that brat to be struck by lightning, of course," an old man said dispiritedly. When these people turned around and saw Xiao Chun behind them, they paled and retreated in fright. "Haha, you are not very capable, but your heart is very vicious. In that case, I will let you have a taste of being struck by lightning first." Xiao Chun stretched out his hand and pointed. Winds and clouds moved in the sky. The clouds clashed, and a bolt of lightning descended from the sky, blasting the person who spoke into the water. Only when the clouds move can there be lightning. However, clouds cannot move without wind. Hence there needs to be wind. Xiao Chun thought to himself. Then he casually executed the comprehensions he had gained in Thunder Emperor Valley. Instantly lightning flashed. A group of half-step martial monarchs waiting for Xiaochen to be struck by lightning were struck by lightning. They cried out miserably as they fell into the water, charred black. Let's go to Dragon Sealing City. Seeing that the old men were all struck by the lightning, Xiaochen did not make things difficult for this group of people. He stood on the blue dragon and headed for Dragon Sealing City. Gulp, gulp. Xiaochen walked far away. On the surface of the sea below, there was a burst of bubbles. One by one, black and swarthy heads popped out of the water, like refugees. They still did not understand each other. Feeling confused, they said, "That shouldn't be the case. Why is it that this brat is not struck by lightning, but we are?" In the sky above Dragon Sealing City, the Bushan Palace's jade ship was overflowing with light. Celestial music lingered in the surroundings, and colorful clouds drifted. The thick, dark clouds that had not melted for 10,000 years were split into two halves. Golden light shone from the center and poured down. Every building in the simple and unadorned Dragon Sealing City seemed to be covered in a layer of golden paint, looking very beautiful. The geniuses of the Sky Dome realm in the top 20 of the True Dragon ranking stood at the bow of the ship. As they looked at the boundless Sky Dome realm, they were all in high spirits and felt very nervous. In the vast Sky Dome realm, there were thousands of heroes. However, only the 20 of them could obtain the opportunity to enter the Kunlun realm. What kind of glory was this? However, they also felt very nervous in the depths of their hearts. After suffering at Xiaochen's hands, they now had a clear understanding of their own strength. Perhaps if they went to the Kunlun realm, the pride that they had for the past 20-odd years would be gone forever, vanishing into the crowd. However, everyone here was a strong and confident person. The anticipation and desire in their hearts far outweighed their nervousness. No one believed that they would lose. As long as they had a chance, even if they went to the Kunlun realm, they could still rise up and obtain the glory that belonged to them. There was no need to worry so much when they were young. As long as there was a dream in their hearts, no matter how cruel this world was, there was nothing to fear. At this moment, Yu Chenxi and Old Feng were looking into the distance. It was clear that they were waiting for someone. Gong Yangyu stood behind the two with a calm expression. His sect was much weaker than the Haotian sect in the Kunlun realm. It was only a rank 8 sect. After setting some conditions with his sect, Gong Yangyu decided to go to the Kunlun realm. That was to say, he headed straight for the Haotian sect. If he went to his own sect, the treatment he would receive would be better. In a relatively small and weak sect, it would be easier for him to gain the attention of the upper echelons. If he went to the Haotian sect, where there were more geniuses, the competition he would face was something that the main sect could not compare to. The treatment he received would be worse as well. This was a choice between being the head of a chicken or the tail of a phoenix. In the end, Gong Yangyu chose the latter. Actually, most of the people here chose the latter as well. Those whose sects had not reached rank 9 were prepared to look for a better place. A smile appeared on Yu Chenxi's face as he said, "He is here." Gong Yangyu recovered his wits and quickly looked over. He saw a figure in the distance standing on the image of a blue dragon. As the figure moved up and down, it traveled 1 kilometer. This figure quickly flew towards the jade warship. That person looked very graceful and extraordinary. He did not reveal himself, but he gave off an unfathomable feeling, one that no one could defeat. Naturally, this person was the top ranker of the True Dragon ranking, the white-robed bladesman who dominated the younger generation of the Sky Dome realm, and defeated Wan Feng, the king-grade True Dragon genius, Xiaochen. Xiaochen is here. It was not just Yu Chenxi, but also the gazes of everyone else focused on Xiaochen. This white-robed bladesman seemed to always be able to create miracles. Back then, at the Wan clan's plaza, the many outstanding young talents had been humiliated by Wan Feng. Although they were not convinced, they all suffered miserable defeats at his hands, unable to retaliate at all. Only Xiaochen, after defeating 36 martial monarchs and the 8 great guardian deities, still had the strength to defeat Wan Feng. Xiaochen managed to gain some glory for the youths of the Sky Dome realm. "Sorry, I'm a little late." Xiaochen looked around at the situation. He had not expected the others to arrive so early, so he said apologetically to Old Feng, Old Feng smiled gently and said, "There's no rush, there's no rush. There are people who came even later than you." Xiao Chen looked carefully and discovered that there were already 19 people in the top 20. Only Chu Chaoyan was nowhere to be seen. Strange, given Chu Chaoyan's talent. It would be too much of a pity if he did not go to the Kunlun realm. Xiao Chen thought doubtfully. At the same time, he felt somewhat disappointed. Xiao Chen and Chu Chaoyan had not truly determined a victor yet. The battle on the wind cloud platform was just the beginning. In the future, when the two of them reached the peak, there would definitely be another battle. If Chu Chaoyan did not go to the Kunlun realm, he would only be left far behind, never able to catch up. I'm not waiting anymore. He is just a lower realm genius, and he dares to put on airs in front of me. If he does not go, then so be it. Bushan Palace does not lack people like him. The extreme old man's displeased voice came from the ship's hold. Wuxia. The instant the extreme old man spoke, the jade warship immediately soared into the air. Then, it flew at an extremely fast speed towards the boundless golden light above. The thick, dark clouds that had been split in half slowly merged together like two pieces of the ceiling. Finally, they merged completely, and a huge shadow covered Dragon Ceiling City once again. Time passed slowly. Only when the Age of Geniuses began would the dark clouds above Dragon Ceiling City open again, and send down a golden light. The dense golden light surrounded the jade warship. The many cultivators on the warship, including Xiao Chen, were all very curious as they looked around. However, all they could see was golden light. They could not see anything special about it. How exactly did this warship reach the Kunlun realm? Xiao. After an unknown period of time, the surrounding golden light suddenly dissipated. Boundless stars and a vast heavenly river appeared before everyone's eyes. Normally, no one dared to look at the blazing sun. However, at this moment, it was just a small ball of fire in everyone's eyes. It looked very wondrous. From time to time, huge flying rocks with long tails whizzed past everyone's eyes. The scene was quite thrilling. The jade ship was surrounded by a transparent golden membrane, protecting it from being hit by the flying stones. This is the starry heavens. As someone from the modern era, Xiao Chen discovered that the starry heavens here could not be measured by the knowledge of Earth. A jade warship could float in the starry heavens. No matter how much the people of that world imagined it, they would not dare to believe it. When Xiao Chen looked back, he discovered that the original Sky Dome realm was actually just a small stone stele with talisman scripts shining on it. Xiao Chen was sure that the size of that stone stele surpassed that of the jade warship. However, the radiance it emitted enveloped all the stars in it. Such a strange scene left people puzzled even after much thought. After we pass the whirlpool in front, we will reach the Kunlun realm. Old Feng's voice came from behind Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen looked to the front. At some point in time, a seven-colored whirlpool had appeared in the boundless starry heavens. At some point in time, a seven-colored whirlpool had appeared. This whirlpool was incredibly huge, comparable to a planet. Old Feng said gravely, "Xiao Chen Yu Chenxi and Gongyang Yu, now that we are here, I should tell you about the situation of the Kunlun realm." The group quickly listened, not daring to miss out on anything. Aside from humans, there are many other races of various sizes in the Kunlun realm. The Kunlun realm is ridiculously large. It would not be an exaggeration to describe it as boundless. The region that our human race controls is the Tianwu domain. For the sake of resources, the various domains frequently erupt in great wars. The Bushan Palace is a faction formed by all the sects of the human race. It is the supreme sect that rules the Tianwu domain. You don't have to know about the other races and the larger domains for now. Just the Tianwu domain is more than enough for you to explore. You might not even be able to finish exploring it in your lifetime. Gong Yangyu asked out of curiosity, "How big is the Tianwu domain?" Compared to the Tianwu continent, it is slightly bigger. When Gong Yangyu heard this, he could not help but laugh loudly. He said, "There is no comparison at all. The Tianwu domain has 108 continents. Even the smallest continent is larger than a nation in the Tianwu continent. The slightly larger continents are the size of 2 nations. This is just the places with human habitation. If we include some desolate mountains and ancient remnants, it is even larger. When Xiao Chun and the other two heard this, they could not help but be flabbergasted. Just the Tianwu domain of the human race was already so large. In that case, how large was the entire Kunlun realm? I'll say one last thing. You are all geniuses. Otherwise, the Haotian sect would not have called you in. But if you want to do nothing, and the Clear Sky School directly spends resources to support you, that is absolutely impossible. It is the same for the other sections. If you want to obtain more resources, you need to bring out your strength to prove yourself and stand out from the other disciples. Chapter 643. Old Feng's last sentence sounded extremely grave. Yu Chenxi and Gong Yangyu exchanged glances. They both felt a trace of seriousness in each other's eyes. Xiao Chun, on the other hand, did not feel much. He had already expected this. Regardless of whether it was the genius disciples of the Haotian sect in the Tianwu domain, or the luck geniuses from the other great thousand realms, the Haotian sect would not be able to defeat them. In this great world, there were definitely no mediocre people. The competition would probably be even more intense. In a situation where the resources were equal, the only way was to stand out. He had to show that he was more worthy of nurturing than others in order to get what he wanted. As everyone on the bow of the ship cried out in alarm, the jade ship entered the rainbow vortex with a whoosh. Everyone felt a powerful suction force. In front of that force, their bodies were unable to resist at all, and they were disintegrated into countless particles of various sizes. At this moment, his soul and body were separated. He could still think, but he couldn't control his own body. Such a strange state was extremely frightening, but fortunately, it didn't last for long. The particles of his body, big and small, reassembled like a platter. His body returned to his control, and the world before him suddenly opened up. In the boundless sky, a huge sun hung high in the sky. There were many mountains and cities on the ground. The tall buildings were as small as ants. Looking from above, the Kunlun realm was no different from the Tianwu continent. My cultivation base seems to have increased a little. It has become more condensed. Me too. Earlier, it felt like the veritable essence energy in my body was reorganized. Several of my blocked meridians were cleared. This is the Kunlun realm. The many young Sky Dome realm cultivators on the bow of the warship all spoke excitedly, their faces filled with excitement. Xiao Chun circulated his quintessence and discovered that it was indeed so. His cultivation had advanced to early stage inferior grade martial monarch. The circulation of quintessence in his meridians became smoother, saving him half a month of bitter cultivation. Old Feng smiled faintly and said, "The rules of the lower realm and the upper realm are different. The first time you enter, everyone's cultivation will receive some benefits. Although it is not much, it is better than nothing. Properly experience the spiritual energy of the Kunlun realm. Before you go to Bushin Palace, you should get used to it." Even without Old Feng's instructions, the many youths on the bow had already closed their eyes and sat down cross-legged, greedily absorbing the spiritual origin around them. Xiao Chun was not in a hurry to sit down cross-legged. Instead, he circulated the true essence in his body and made a grabbing motion in the air. A water ball formed from spirit chi appeared in his palm. The light blue ball of water was plump and full. It contained a large amount of heaven and earth spiritual chi. Xiao Chun muttered, "With just a casual grab, there is already so much spiritual energy. It is more than 10 times stronger than the Great Jin Nation, which is rich in spiritual energy." Pooh! With a flick of his hand, Xiao Chun poured quintessential essence into the ball of water. It spun and shot into the distance before exploding. The water ball turned into droplets of rain and dispersed in all directions. Not even a faint ripple appeared in the space. Strange. In the Sky Dome realm, I can tear space with a casual strike. Earlier, I infused a drop of compressed quintessential essence into that ball of water, but there was not even a ripple in space. Shock flashed in Xiao Chun's eyes as he muttered to himself. The space of this Kunlun realm seemed to be much firmer than that of the Sky Dome realm. The restrictions of the natural laws on cultivators were even greater. Let's try again. This time, Xiaochen got serious. He exhausted 50% of his quintessential essence and 60% comprehended saber intent. Then, he used his fingers as a saber and sent out a strand of sharp saber chi to the side. The sharp saber chi was like a rainbow piercing through the sun. Soon, it vanished before Xiaochen's eyes, disappearing in a flash. Wherever it passed, faint ripples would appear on both sides. Ripples would appear in the space around it, as if a stone had been dropped onto a calm surface of water. At this point, Xiaochen was certain that the space of this Kunlun realm was much firmer. If one compared this empty space to a building, then the space of the Sky Dome realm was a wooden building, and the building here was a tall tower made of steel. The two could not be compared at all. The difference was too great. Xiaochen withdrew his hand and said softly, "In such a tight and firm space, cultivation progress, flying speed, and the might of martial techniques will all be greatly restricted." No wonder Wanfeng's quintessential essence was so pure. The heavenly Tao's restrictions on cultivators were much stronger than in the lower realms. Given this, the lower realm cultivators were naturally at a disadvantage compared to the geniuses who were already used to the Kunlun realm's laws. If there were any arrogant and unruly people who were not convinced by the local geniuses, they would immediately be taught a severe lesson. In the distance, two girls stood on an azure lawn covered in flames. The girl on the right wore a green dress. She was very pretty and had an otherworldly air. She appeared quiet and cute. This girl was already a rare beauty. However, the girl on the left, wearing a red dress, was even more beautiful. Her skin was fair, her teeth were sharp, and her eyebrows were like a blazing flame. As the azure lawn flew quickly, a sharp saber chi with a flourishing aura flew over from the side. The girl on the right reacted very quickly. She flicked her finger, and a resonant phoenix cry rang out. Then a fiery sword chi shot out from her fingertip. The fiery light was dazzling, and the sword chi was like a rainbow. When it clashed with that saber chi, it quickly melted. After a while, the saber chi turned into mist and scattered. The girl on the left asked in shock, "Who sent out that saber chi?" To think that elder sister Nguyen had to use the vermilion bird holy flame. The girl with the family name Nguyen looked at the jade ship that was already far away. When she saw a blurry white figure, she said softly, "This strand of saber chi contains not only dense quintessential energy, but also a 60% comprehended saber intent. If I want to casually destroy it, I have to use the vermilion bird holy flame." At the same time, the girl with the family name Nguyen felt somewhat astonished. She recognized the symbol of that jade ship. It was the escort ship that passed by Bushan Palace. If there were no surprises, this strand of saber chi came from one of the lower realm geniuses on the ship. However, there is no killing chi. It should be a casual probing from someone from the lower realm. That is not a problem. I will bring you to the proud son of heaven ranking. Let's go. As Xiaochen pondered, the youths on the bow all opened their eyes. Their eyes shone with great confidence, and some of them even laughed out loud. What dense spiritual energy! No wonder that Wanfeng is only an inferior grade martial monarch, but he surpasses us by so much. His accumulations are simply too bountiful. That's right. Give us some time, and we will definitely surpass him. It is not that his talent surpasses ours. Rather, he has been in the Kunlun realm longer than us. Sooner or later, we will teach him a lesson. After cultivating for a while, the cultivators felt a lot of spiritual energy in their bodies. Lofty aspirations filled their hearts, sweeping away all the nervousness in their hearts. Their expressions were filled with excitement, as if they had come back to life. Xiaochen frowned slightly and did not say anything. Wanfeng's strength was not that simple. Even in the Tianwu domain, Wanfeng's state of ice, which surpassed the limits, was not something that just anyone could grasp. Furthermore, everyone could obtain spiritual energy. In the Kunlun realm, it was like cabbages. There was no need to be so excited. In the end, they are all youths. Their mental states are not mature enough. Old Feng said softly as he shook his head. Boom. Just at this moment, boundless golden light came from the front. A huge palace floating in the air appeared before everyone's eyes. The surroundings of the palace were shrouded in mist, causing the mysterious palace to appear somewhat hazy. When the group got closer, they discovered that the signboard above the palace read, Bushin Palace South Gate. We have arrived. All of you quickly go down. The elders of your respective sects will inform you of the arrangements for the remaining matters. The extreme old man's voice came from the warship's hold in an indifferent manner. Old Feng said, go down first. I'll bring you to Bushin Palace to register yourselves. After that, we will attempt to enter the proud Son of Heaven ranking. Just as Xiao Chun was about to leave, he suddenly felt an intense, hateful gaze. He turned his head to look, and the windows of the warship were open. Wan Feng looked at Xiao Chun coldly, a boundless hatred gathering in the depths of his eyes. That hatred surged like a flood, extremely terrifying. It felt like even if Wan Feng ate Xiao Chun alive, he would not be able to resolve the hatred in his heart. Xiao Chun found it strange. Where does this fellow get so much hatred from? I merely defeated him in front of everyone. If he is not satisfied, he can just challenge me again. There is no need for him to show such a horrifying gaze. Naturally, Xiao Chun did not know that Kim Taeho humiliated Wan Feng. Wan Feng blamed the humiliation of that day on Xiao Chun. If Xiao Chun had not severely injured Wan Feng first, how could Wan Feng have been beaten to the point of kneeling and admitting his mistakes by someone like Kim Taeho, whom Wan Feng could easily crush? Xiao Chun, let's go. Yu Chenxi reminded when he saw Xiao Chun in a daze. Xiao Chun withdrew his gaze and smiled in response. Then he jumped off the warship with Wan Feng. Wan Feng clenched his right fist tightly and said coldly, I'll let you be cocky for now. When I break through to medial grade martial monarch, I will definitely go to the Haotian sect to take revenge. Amid the dense spiritual fog, the majestic palace gave off a faint golden light. It looked like a paradise on earth. From a distance, the floating Bushin Palace looked like the forbidden city of Xiao Chun's previous world, floating in midair. Pavilions, terraces, and halls filled the city. Simple and imposing buildings lined the streets, one after another. One could even vaguely see tall mountains, lakes, and rivers. Rather than a palace, it was more like a miniature continent. Under the lead of their sect elders, the participants on the warship arrived at the south gate of Bushin Palace. 2 rows of golden-armored warriors with deep cultivation stood below the simple and imposing gate. They expressionlessly inspected the cultivators lining up to enter the south gate. Occasionally, people rode on spirit beasts and descended from the sky. There were also all sorts of small birds with overwhelming spiritual energy flying by in flocks. When one looked carefully, one would be shocked to discover that the feathers of these unremarkable birds flickered with dazzling light. The spiritual energy in their eyes indicated that they were actually rank 7 spirit beasts. Some of the bolder birds did not fear the cultivators on the ground. They flew around the crowd and chirped nonstop. When the young cultivators of the Sky Dome realm arrived at Bushin Palace, they all looked around curiously. Chapter 644. Old Feng did not find this strange. He smiled gently and led the 3 past the long queue, going directly to the golden-armored guards. After handing over their identity documents and identity medallions, the guards at the south gate let Xiao Chun and the others through. They did not even have to queue. Purple gold vine. A purple gold vine that is at least 1,000 years old. Unexpectedly, it is planted by the roadside, and its fruits are all ripe. There is also the fire dragon tree. It is at least 1,000 years old. White profound flower. After entering, the group could not help but exclaim when they saw the spirit trees and flowers casually planted by the roadside. When they looked around, they saw the spirit trees and spirit herbs that were very valuable in the Sky Dome realm growing everywhere like weeds in the vast Bushin Palace. Xiao Chun was not too astonished. Spirit trees that could be casually planted by the roadside were definitely not rare. Since they were in the Kunlun realm, they could not look at things from the perspective of the Sky Dome realm. Old Feng led the 3 through a few familiar streets in the Bushin Palace. Soon, they arrived at a majestic hall. The plaque above the door read, Proud Son of Heaven Pavilion. After entering the hall, Old Feng got the 3 to wait for a while he went to get their identity medallions. The few of them felt bored as they waited. There were also some cultivators around their age who were waiting excitedly. Are you cultivators from the lower realm? 3 cultivators, male and female, walked over and asked the 3 curiously. The one who asked the question was a pretty girl. This girl was about 24 or 25 years old. She was already an inferior grade martial monarch. Her aura was very stable, not chaotic at all. Clearly, she had advanced a long time ago. The 3 exchanged glances. Then Yuchensi made the introductions. Yes, we are from the Sky Dome realm. I am Yuchensi, he is Xiaochen, and he is Gongyangyu. I am Baishi. These 2 are my junior brothers, Baihe and Baiyu. They are from the rank 8 sect of the Jingzhou province, Baiming Palace. The girl's smile did not diminish as she introduced them warmly to the 3. When the 2 male disciples behind her heard that Xiaochen and the others were from the Sky Dome realm, they revealed disdainful gazes. I thought it was the geniuses of the 10 great battle realms. So it is the last rank Sky Dome realm. Senior sister Bai, let's go. There is nothing to say to them. The Baiming Palace disciple named Baiyu said faintly. Baihe also said, the people of the Sky Dome realm want to enter the proud son of heaven ranking? That is simply impossible. What a waste of an opportunity. White Brook unhappily said, how can you 2 speak like that? How rude. Haha. In that case, senior sister, you can just waste your time here. We'll go make our preparations. Once senior brother brings back the Sage Sky Lantern, we'll attempt the proud son of heaven ranking. The 2 of them didn't even look at Xiao Chun and the other 2. They just turned around and left. Xiao Chun and Ao Jiao learned a little about the 10 great battle realms as they chatted. Of the 600 great realms that the Bushan Palace controlled, the 10 great battle realms were the top 10 great thousand realms. There were countless experts in the battle realms. Many of them were natural combat geniuses. Every year, the experts of the battle realms would enter the Kunlun realm, making a name for themselves in the competitive Tianwu domain. The battle realms had already become a signboard. The people who came from the battle realms were publicly acknowledged to be extraordinary. Even the people of the Tianwu domain wanted to befriend them. My apologies. My 2 junior brothers are rather proud and arrogant. However, they are definitely not vicious people, Baishi said apologetically. This was not the first time Xiao Chen met such realistic people. Given his mental state, these 2 would not affect him at all. He smiled faintly and did not say anything. Yu Chenxi felt dissatisfied in his heart. However, when he saw Baishi's sincere attitude, he did not say anything. He changed the topic and said, let's not talk about this. Elder sister Baishi, can you tell us what this proud son of heaven ranking is? Baishi was very enthusiastic. She smiled and said, naturally I can. The proud son of heaven ranking is a ranking that measures the strength of the young cultivators in our Tianwu domain. It is the most authoritative ranking. In the Tianwu domain, as long as you are not older than 40, you have a chance to make it onto the ranking every year. After you make it onto the ranking, not only will you become famous in the Tianwu domain, but you will also receive many benefits. The first benefit is that the Bushan Palace will give you spirit-gathering pearls and medicinal pills as a monthly reward based on your rank on the ranking. The second benefit is that as long as you make it onto the ranking, you will obtain the will of an ancient sage. The ancient sage was as strong as a martial emperor. This will enter your sea of consciousness and save your life at a critical moment. The third benefit is the one that has the closest relationship with you all. If you can make it onto the ranking, you will receive more attention after you enter the sect. When the group heard Baishi's explanation, they could not help but feel anticipation for the proud son of heaven ranking. Senior brother is here. Come, let's go quickly. After cultivating for 3 years, I must make it onto the ranking. Just at this moment, Baiyu and Baihe rushed over. Baishi smiled and said, my first senior brother is here. I will take my leave first. Xiao Chun and the others turned their heads to look and saw a young swordsman with an extraordinary air and unfathomable cultivation. 3 lanterns floated in front of him as he slowly walked over. The group also saw Old Feng behind that young swordsman. There were also 3 lanterns floating in front of him. Old Feng walked over and said to the 3, come, Follow me to the sage's wall to make it onto the proud son of heaven ranking. Following Old Feng's footsteps, the three arrived before a wall in the middle of the hall. There were many paintings of sages on this wall. An ancient aura came from it, making them feel solemn and heavy. They did not even dare to breathe too loudly. There were 1,000 lanterns arranged in a pyramid shape on the wall. When the lanterns lit up, the sages on the wall shone brightly, making the strong auras of the sages even more prominent. As for the wick, it was an eye-opener for the three of them. They were actually miniature figures made of flames. Although the flaming figures were small, as long as one focused, the figures in the lanterns would be magnified infinitely. It was like they were real people imprinted in one's mind. The first row had only one lantern, the second row had 2 lanterns, and the third row had 4 lanterns. The 1,000 lanterns were arranged according to this pattern. The 3 lanterns at the very top had golden wicks. The light from their flames was the most dazzling, practically overshadowing the light from the other lanterns. Each lantern represented an outstanding talent of the Tianwu domain. With these 3 people occupying such positions and giving off such light, it would be hard not to notice them. Old Feng sighed softly. You should have heard of the masters of those 3 lanterns. They are the holy son and holy daughter of the 3 holy masters. The one at the very top is the divine martial gates Feng Wuji. The 2 below are the Phoenix's passion palaces Nuan Muyun, and the White Emperor cities Xiao Hoju. Old Feng continued, the 3 holy masters are a sovereign sect that is even stronger than the 9 ranks of the great families in the Tianwu domain. They are also the only 3 sovereign sects in the Tianwu domain. Xiaochen raised his eyebrows slightly. When he thought of his blue dragon martial spirit, he could not help but enter deep thought. The 3 holy masters are probably even stronger in the Tianwu domain. However, most people would not compare themselves to them. The ranking of the 7 giants of the Tianwu domain's younger generation does not include these 3. Normally, it is very difficult to meet these 3. Old Feng pointed to the 7 lanterns at the bottom row and said, these 7 people are either from the 9 ranks of the great families or from rank 9 clans. They are all very strong. The weakest is a superior grade martial monarch. The one with the strongest cultivation would be able to withstand many moves from a martial sage and retreat calmly. When Xiaochen heard this, he could not help but feel startled. It was clear that it was much harder to raise one's cultivation in the Kunlun realm than in the Sky Dome realm. Martial monarchs were also much more valuable. The difficulty of fighting someone of a higher cultivation realm was not something that the Sky Dome realm could compare to. It was almost impossible. With Xiaochen's current strength, if he met a medial grade martial monarch of the Kunlun realm, he would have to put in a lot of effort to defeat them. If the other party was also a genius cultivator and had a higher cultivation than Xiaochen, victory would be hard to predict. These 7 people were all superior grade martial monarchs, and had the backing of the 9 ranks of the great families. Furthermore, they were genius cultivators as well. They could easily kill Xiaochen. Aside from these, there are also some proud sons of heaven whose strength is second only to the 7 giants. They are heroes among men and are terrifyingly strong. In the Sky Dome realm, even a regular martial sage would not be able to do anything to them. As Yu Chenxi and Gong Yangyu listened to Old Feng's explanation, they felt a strong pressure when facing these 1,000 lanterns. They felt somewhat dispirited. Compared to Gong Yangyu and Gong Yangyu, Xiaochen also felt immense pressure. However, he did not feel dispirited at all. His expression did not change. When Old Feng saw Yu Chenxi and Gong Yangyu's expressions, he smiled faintly and said, don't overthink this. The average lifespan of the Kunlun realm's cultivators is 200 years. So, even 40 years old is still considered part of the younger generation. The average age of the 1,000 people on the Proud Son of Heaven ranking is 30 years old. Compared to them, you are still too young. This is your first attempt at the Proud Son of Heaven ranking, just to let you broaden your horizons. I do not expect you to obtain any results. As Old Feng spoke, the other participants of the Sky Dome realm, Bai Qi, Lu Xiaoyan, and the others, arrived before the wall under the lead of the various sect elders. Everyone had newly obtained identity medallions at their waists. The words Sky Dome Realm were written on the back, so the surrounding people knew their origins. So they all stopped and watched them attempt the proud son of heaven ranking together. Beiming Palaces by You smiled and said, "There are quite a few people from the Sky Dome realm. However, I do not see a single medial grade martial monarch. No wonder they are ranked last." Bai he added, "They are unable to break through to medial grade martial monarch in the lower realm. This means that their aptitude is not very good. Senior sister Bai, you are still chatting so intimately with them. You are lowering your own status." Bai he is right. Given their talent, even if they enter the 9 ranks of the great families, they will only be outer sect disciples. At best, they will be inner sect disciples. Although our Beiming Palace is only a rank 8 sect, you are all true inheritors. There is no need for you to befriend the minor characters of a large sect. The young swordsman behind the 3 said slowly, "Befriend experts of similar strength to you and exchange pointers with them. Only then will you be able to improve together." When Bai He and Lu Xiaoyan heard the young swordsman's words, their smiles widened involuntarily. Seeing their first senior brother lecturing them, Bai Shi lowered her head, not daring to say anything more. Chapter 645. Haha. The people of the Sky Dome realm are here to attempt the proud son of heaven ranking as well. Let's wait and see. Anyway, I came quickly and left quickly. I won't have to wait for long. The surrounding cultivators of the Tianwu domain's native sects all stood silently at the side with the intention of watching a joke. Damn it, a bunch of snobs looking down on me. I'll just charge forward and show you. Immediately, 2 people felt extremely dissatisfied. They picked up their lanterns and dripped their blood onto them. The lotus immediately ignited into flames. The appearance formed by the flames was the exact same appearance of the 2, just that they were many times smaller. Go. When the 2 of them felt the suction from the wall, they shouted angrily and hurled their lanterns at the wall. When the 2 lanterns were 200 meters away from the wall with countless human sages painted on it, the shadows of 2 human sages suddenly leaped out of the wall. The images of the 2 predecessors went from large to small. Soon, they were the same size as the flames in the lanterns. Then, they each leaped into a lantern. The palm-sized space above the lotus flower seemed to have become a world of its own. The figure of the sage and the little flame person started exchanging blows. Bang! In just a breath of time, the 2 lanterns' flaming figures suddenly shattered. The lanterns that had lost their wicks immediately tumbled to the ground. The 2 Sky Dome realm cultivators who made a move revealed horror in their eyes. They paled and each vomited a large mouthful of blood. Ha ha ha. You can't even pass the basic test, yet you still dare to shamelessly say that you want to enter the rankings. The young cultivators of the Tianwu domain's native sects all laughed loudly. Their gazes filled with mockery. Bai Yu and Bai He nearly bent over in laughter. They said loudly, "These 2 pieces of trash are making me laugh to death. They can't even block a single move from the sages. Yet they still have the nerve to attempt the honor roll. If it were me, I might as well find a piece of tofu and knock myself to death." The 2 people's faces alternated between green and purple. Amidst the laughter of the local martial artists, they were extremely ashamed. Following that, the Sky Dome realm cultivators who came out to try and break into the proud son of heaven ranking felt very motivated, doing their best to prove themselves. However, they all failed. In the foundational test, they were defeated one after another. The one who performed the best could only last for 10 moves. Even so, they were unable to avoid the destruction of the wick, and they fell to the ground pathetically. Yu Chenxi and Gong Yangyu also went up to try it. In the end, the image of the sage broke the wick and defeated them. Next up were Bai Qi and Xianyuan Zhantian. They managed to regain some face for the Sky Dome realm. After the 2 of them lasted 20 moves, they finally cleared the foundational test. However, in the process of officially breaking into the ranking of martial emperors, the last lantern in the last row of the pyramid shattered the wick of the 2 lanterns, failing to break into the ranking of martial emperors. The surrounding people all revealed expressions of as expected. How could the Sky Dome realm, which was ranked last, succeed in breaking into the proud son of heaven ranking? Make way! Make way! You geniuses of the Sky Dome realm, stop embarrassing yourselves here. Go back and train for a few years before coming back to make a breakthrough. Beaming palaces Bai Yu and Bai He held their lanterns and waved their hands to disperse Bai Qi and the others who were blocking their way. You haven't made your move yet. The two of them parted the crowd and saw Xiao Chun, who was preparing to make a move on the ranking board. They asked with a strange expression. Bai Yu and Bai He had waited for a long time. They had seen enough of the joke, and did not wish to waste any more time. He said extremely impatiently, "Don't overestimate yourself. Do you think that this is your last rank Sky Dome realm? In this life, you will never have a chance to enter the proud Son of Heaven ranking." Scram. As he spoke, he prepared to push Xiao Chun away. However, just as he was about to touch Xiao Chun, suddenly, Xiao Chun turned his head around and unleashed his peak state of massacre. His pitch-black eyes seemed to contain countless evil spirits wailing miserably. "I don't like people touching me when I'm trying to break into the rankings." Xiao Chun's tone was extremely calm, and he did not release any of his aura. Only the boundless killing intent penetrated their eyes and entered their minds. The two of them could not help feeling fear. Their bodies involuntarily took a step back. What a terrifying gaze. The two of them exchanged glances, clearly in disbelief. The fellow on the other side clearly had the same cultivation as them. How could he scare the two of them away? Seeing that the two of them had retreated, Xiao Chun immediately withdrew the peak state of massacre. He had just arrived in the Kunlun realm, and was not strong enough. He did not want to cause too much trouble and wanted to keep a low profile. Bai Yu felt some lingering fear in his heart, but he did not want to embarrass himself. He said, "I'll let you try. Let's see what tricks you can play. I don't believe that the trash of the Sky Dome realm can successfully break into the proud Son of Heaven ranking on his first try." The surrounding native cultivators of the Tianwu domain did not believe that Xiao Chun could succeed in breaking into the proud Son of Heaven ranking. After all, many of the people on the proud Son of Heaven ranking were already in their 30s. In the Kunlun realm, the average age of cultivators was more than 200 years old. Hence, people before 40 were considered part of the younger generation. Right now, Xiao Chun was only 21 years old. Compared to these people who had been cultivating in the Kunlun realm since he was young, the difference in experience was too obvious. Old Feng looked at Xiao Chun, who was preparing to break into the proud Son of Heaven ranking. He felt some anticipation in his heart. He had expected the others not to succeed. The Tianwu domain was vast and boundless. There were tens of millions of cultivators in the younger generation. The 1,000 people who could stand out from these tens of millions would definitely not be weak or mediocre. Furthermore, due to age and experience, these people would not be able to accomplish much on their first try. They just needed to broaden their horizons. As for the humiliation they received, the various sect elders had actually done so on purpose to deal a blow to these people. These arrogant youths who had just arrived in the Tianwu domain clearly understood their situation. However, Old Feng believed that Xiao Chun, the white-robed bladesman who always created miracles, would not disappoint him. Xiao Chun looked calmly at the sage wall and the 1,000 lanterns on it. Then he took a deep breath and sliced open the palm of his right hand. Blood flowed along the lines on his palm and slowly fell on the lantern. With a pu sound, the blood instantly burned and turned into a beautiful clump of flame. In a daze, Xiao Chun felt the mental energy in his sea of consciousness flow away as the blood dripped. When the flame on the lantern turned into a human shape, Xiao Chun discovered that he was already on the lantern. The lantern, which was originally only the size of a palm, was now a world of its own. It did not feel out of place at all. Interesting. I wonder who made this lantern? After giving it a try, Xiao Chun discovered that he could still control the lantern. He could end this state with a thought, so there was nothing to fear. When Xiao Chun felt the suction of the sage wall, he stood on the lantern and shouted. Then the lantern carried him up into the air. He overestimates himself. This fellow still wants to attempt the sage ranking? He probably cannot even pass the test of the sage wall. That's right. He is still trying to block our path. He is just wasting time. Seeing Xiao Chun's lantern fly up, Bai Yu and Bai He immediately called out loudly. Earlier, the two of them had been forced back by Xiao Chun's gaze. After being forced back by a minor character, they felt very embarrassed. They wished that Xiao Chen's lantern would be thrown down before he could attempt the sage ranking. That would resolve the hatred in their hearts. Bai Shi, who had kept her head down, looked up and discovered that her first senior brother was watching seriously as well. She could not help but ask out of curiosity, "First senior brother, will that Xiao Chen succeed in breaking into the sage ranking?" The blue-clad youth with an extraordinary air had a cautious look in his eyes. He was no longer as certain as before. Perhaps others had not noticed Bai Yu and Bai He's actions earlier, but he had seen it clearly. This was already the fourth time Bai Yu and Bai He attempted the sage ranking. They had already advanced to inferior grade martial monarch long ago. In terms of cultivation, they would only be higher than Xiao Chen's. Furthermore, the blue-clad youth was very clear on the temperaments of these two. It was impossible for them to be forced back by just one sentence from Xiao Chen. There was definitely something strange about this. The blue-clad youth said, "It is hard to say. However, they should be able to pass the test of the sage ranking. As for whether they can enter the sage ranking or not, I am not sure." Xiao. The lantern flew up a distance, and an old man with white hair and eyebrows on the sage wall suddenly came to life. In that instant, he shrank and landed on the lantern platform. In the world above the lantern platform, Xiao Chen placed his right hand on his saber hilt. He did not dare to be careless when facing this white-haired old man. "I will restrict my cultivation to one cultivation grade lower than yours. If you want to enter the proud son of heaven ranking, you have to receive 20 moves from me first." Right after the white-haired old man spoke, a sword appeared in his hand. His figure flashed, leaving behind many afterimages as he chopped at Xiao Chen. The light on the sword was withdrawn. When the old man chopped down, he sent out 7 sword images. Each sword image split into 3 afterimages. In that instant, there were 21 real and fake sword images encasing Xiao Chen. As the wind howled, a fiery light flickered. The boundless sword images looked like a blazing sea of fire. Xiao Chen was astonished. What a profound martial technique. This move not only contained an extremely high level of sword techniques, but it also perfectly merged the state of fire that he comprehended with the sword technique. This allowed the original martial technique to reach a higher level, completely transcending it. This was an eye-opener for Xiao Chen. To think that martial techniques could be used in such a manner. Excellent. Senior's move is indescribably excellent. In that case, this junior will display his incompetence. When Xiao Chen saw such an excellent sword technique, he felt very happy. He had already forgotten about the test to break into the proud son of heaven ranking. He only wanted to test out the true essence of this sword technique and see what he could learn. The instant the lunar shadow saber was drawn, Xiao Chen could not separate his sword images. He could only rely on speed to obtain victory. Despite moving later, he arrived first, sending out 21 saber strikes. As the saber lights danced, Xiao Chen imitated the old man. He infused his state of thunder into every strand of saber light. The boundless saber images formed a sea of electricity leaping about. However, this was Xiao Chen's first time using it, so this sea of electricity was very crude. There was only a vague outline, far from the spirituality and nature of the sea of fire. The white-haired old man raised his eyebrows slightly. He smiled faintly and said, "Little fellow, interesting. However, this sword light sea of fire chop is not as simple as it looks on the surface." Dang, dang, dang. When the saber and sword clashed, they gave off a continuous metallic sound. The white-haired old man's 21 illusory sword images were all blocked by Xiao Chen. However, that sword technique did not stop there. A blazing sea of fire burst out and easily destroyed Xiao Chen's sea of electricity. The sea of fire surged forward as if it wanted to swallow up Xiao Chen. The more dangerous part was yet to come. Within the blazing sea of fire, there was a sharp sword light hidden by the fire. It stored up power, waiting for an opportunity to strike. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference. as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.